So apparently there was a manhunt in Arizona for a man who was threatening to kill Donald Trump. Trump didn't know. They ended up catching the guy. And it's crazy. There's an interview where Trump, in the middle of the interview, says, we have to stop talking. We're actually in serious danger right now. I don't know. I just think, man, since last month when Trump nearly died, they got to take this stuff seriously. So watching Donald Trump leave that bulletproof glass gets me kind of nervous, if you know what I'm saying. But they caught the guy. And there's we'll go through this and the security issues. They're saying there's going to be a special guest at the DNC. Rumors are Taylor Swift, Beyonce, or George W. Bush. I don't know why, but people think it's going to be George W. Bush. But if it was, I mean, that would be the weirdest thing ever. So probably not. But we got some big news. SCOTUS has ruled in favor of requiring proof of citizenship in this court case out of Arizona for voters. We'll talk about that. And then we've got Ken Paxton going undercover investigating individuals trying to register illegal immigrants to vote. Man. And then, I talked about this morning, and I find it kind of strange that it's not bigger news, but we're so entrenched in domestic politics. Like a little while ago, Ukraine invaded Russia, like straight up invaded Russia, and Russia was forced to evacuate 130,000 of its own citizens. Yeah, so escalation seems pretty likely, and it's pretty freaky. So we'll talk about that. Before we get started, my friends, head over to mypillow.com/Tim. And use promo code Tim to buy amazing products from MyPillow. We're all big fans of Mike Lindell, and they got a whole bunch of stuff. They say you've asked, and MyPillow listened. They're finally bringing the most requested offer ever. Their queen-size premium MyPillow, only $19.98. It's made with their patented adjustable fill. It adjusts to your exact individual needs regardless of your sleep position, helps keep your neck aligned, and holds its shape all night long so you get the best night's sleep, best sleep of your life. That's not all. You get their 6-piece kitchen or bath towel sets, only $25. The brand new mattress topper as low as $69.98, and their famous MyPillow bed sheets for as low as $25, and so much more. And also, important part of this promo, Mike Lindell shaved his mustache. So go to mypillow.com, use promo code Tim, mypillow.com/Tim. They also have a phone number you can call. It's 1-800-925-9096. Shout out to Mike. He's hanging out at the DNC. We're big fans. Appreciate his support. Also, head over to timcast.com. Click join us to become a member. Support our work directly, and you will get access to the Discord server where you can hang out with like-minded individuals and also submit questions and perhaps join our members-only call-in show Monday through Thursday at 10 p.m. That'll be up tonight, and maybe it could be you. So go to timcast.com. When you become a member, you're basically making all of this possible because members are how we sustain the company. But then you'll join our call-in show. And you can actually be a part of the show and interact with us and our guests. Smash the like button, subscribe to this channel, share the show with your friends. Joining us tonight to talk about this and so much more is Michael Malice.
Oink, oink, everybody.
Who are you?
I thought I usually have them. Okay. I got to tell you,
I meant that emotion. Like, who are you?
I know. This is, I think, I don't even know what time this is that I've been on the show, and this is the time I am most unexcited because we're gonna have to sit here and listen to Officer Harris give her talk. And
that's right at 9 o'clock.
It's gonna be awful. We know what it's gonna say, and it's just gonna be excruciating. And I've been to North Korea, and I'd rather be in North Korea right now than listening to this talk again.
Well, you can't bring me down because I know every time Malice rolls in, I feel like Gandalf's here, and we're about to go on the adventure.
I'm much more of a hobbit than a Gandalf. Let's be honest. I'm 4'11".
But I agree, because when they pulled Biden out, I was actually disheartened.
Yeah.
And I opened the show by saying, they're going to make us talk about her?
I know. It's like the View. It's like the View becoming president.
Well, so that's Michael Malice. Ian's hanging out.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's roll, man. I feel like Tim is Frodo carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, and I'm like Sam, the comedy relief.
Which is the one who's the one who got all fat and now is for Kamala?
That's me. That's Sam.
It's Sam?
Yeah.
No, he went on Twitter and he's just like, I'm a natural leader and I'm not for Kamala.
Yeah, Samwise.
Sean Astin, maybe?
Yeah, Sean Astin.
Samwise Gamgee.
Man, what a career
no,
he's had.
I'm not
Mikey
Frodo.
From the Goonies.
I'm the guy who thinks he can wield the ring, but then goes insane and gets killed by the
Boromir? That guy had it rough. That was Sean Bean.
Anyway, that's Ian.
Hey, everybody.
Raymond's hanging out as well.
The hat of Sauron.
Hey, friends. I'm Raymond G. Stanley Jr. I have facilities maintenance here at Maintenance. Facilities maintenance here at Timcast. And we're already having a blast here with Michael, so we're looking forward to it.
And Hannah Claire's hanging out.
Yeah, I'm Hannah Claire Brummel. I'm a writer for scnr.com. I'm so happy to be back. I'm glad we can have Michael with us. I know you're really doing service to the country right now by being willing to listen to Kamala Harris and decode it for
Thank me for my service.
Yes.
Yes, right.
I am Austin's bravest.
All right, let's jump into this first story. Check this out. Arizona man accused of threatening to kill Trump nabbed after manhunt during former president's border visit. Apparently, Trump says he wasn't even aware the manhunt was going on. Also, apparently, I guess this guy is a pedophile. Is that correct?
He failed to register as a sex offender.
Oh.
So that could maybe be something else, but he's probably a pedophile.
Yeah, 66-year-old male.
It could be adult.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It could be,
yeah.
but like, I don't know.
And then Trump was talking to a reporter in Arizona, and he says, "They don't want me standing here." Yeah, I'll just play the clip. This is actually it's kind of scary, but it's kind of funny.
Obviously, an assassin tried to kill you.
Yeah,
the
you know what? Can I tell you something?
Sure.
We're in danger standing here talking, so let's not talk any longer. No, I know about it, but they don't want me standing here. They don't want you standing here either. Have a good time. Thank you very much.
Beast mode.
I mean, this is kind of crazy because it's like a month ago, someone literally shot Trump in the head. The side of the head, I know, it just sounds crazier, but it was his ear. And the crazy thing, too, is how people think it was staged. They think that Trump set it up and it was like the shooter was intentionally aiming for his ear.
Well, it's all these people who say, well, if you have someone robbing your house, just shoot the gun out of their hand. It's these types of people on
But apparently they did.
What do you mean?
The local police did shoot the rifle out of
Oh, sure. But the broader point is, I'm sorry, if the corporate press was as concerned about this as they are about like climate change, like that would be a normal response. The fact that they kind of shrugged their shoulders and moved on is extremely disturbing to me. And I have Alex Jones's tinfoil hat on the wall in my house next to your beanie. You've seen it in my house. I've seen it. And I don't think errors of this magnitude are made lightly.
It's not possible. It's impossible.
I'm not a gun person, but I know enough if I saw that stage to scope out where the possible.
Oh, but it's not just that. It's that they have photos of the shooter walking around with the rifle.
Yeah.
So he was there, and they were like, "Oh, hey, look, that guy," and no one did anything about it.
He doesn't look creepy at all.
It's like
He had a gun.
Right.
Immediately, just you stop the guy, but they did not. They let him do it.
It's not. I would say it's technically not impossible, but it is so unlikely that was just an oops.
Yeah, but here's the thing.
It deserves a
let's I'm sorry, because
it is impossible.
Let's steel man this. If we're running a restaurant and you serve chicken and some kid goes to the hospital because the chicken was undercooked, we're freaking the hell out and we're like, all right, we got to look through every step because this can never happen again. And that's the only thing we're talking about is how did this happen? What's our workflow? That doesn't seem to be the case here.
Yeah, this would be more like a kid goes to the hospital after eating raw chicken, which somehow affected him within 40 minutes. And then he like spazzes out, collapses, and we go, whoa, what happened? And then every member of the staff is like, well, we did see a guy walking around with a jar that labeled arsenic and he was spritzing it on the chicken, but we didn't do anything about it.
We fired the chef.
I'd be like, yeah, that wasn't an accident.
Right.
He came in and you guys, that's you were complicit.
Yes.
When your job is to make sure a guy doesn't come in with weapons to try and kill the president, and you release him from holding, there's a threat. People are screaming at come on. Okay, how about this? Let's try Michael's analogy. A kid eats raw chicken and then falls. No. How about let's just say he eats peanuts. Okay, he's allergic to peanut butter and he goes and he falls down. We're like, how did peanuts get in his food? This is crazy. And then the people you hired specifically for the purpose of making sure that this kid doesn't eat any peanuts.
Right. This is the peanut job.
We're like,
right. Yeah,
that's right. A guy came in carrying a big bag of peanuts. We noticed it and we said it was fine. People started screaming, he's got peanuts. He's going to put peanuts in his food. And we were like, don't worry about it. And then the guy walked over and shoved peanuts in the kid's mouth. That's how it happened. You'd be like,
right.
Were you in on it?
Yeah.
And then they say, well, we're investigating it right now. Like, we're looking into it. We'll get back to you on how this happened.
Investigate ourselves and found a wrongdoing.
I also want to add, we don't even need to use the peanut allergy. It's just getting convoluted. A guy was walking around with a rifle at Trump's rally and Secret Service was like, that's fine. I don't believe it. And here's the better part. Okay. And I mean that facetiously. When the guy was walking around with a gun and Secret Service was like, meh, so what? They didn't care. When the guy opened fire, they didn't even respond first. Local law enforcement did. Then Secret Service fired.
That's where the story gets really crazy.
That's where it's like Secret Service was letting him do this. Like, just hands down.
And then they get to continue on their way, right? It wasn't like anyone got moved off. Everyone who has Secret Service protection maintained the same, as far as I know, the same Secret Service protection. Except for maybe Trump when he walked out surrounded by men instead of women at the RNC a couple days later.
I don't understand why he has the money. I don't understand why he doesn't hire supplemental private security.
I hope that he has, and he hasn't talked about it.
That's okay. Yes, smart. That's probably right.
Yeah.
You're right. They're undercover. You're absolutely right. That's the move. You're right. Stupid of me.
Yeah, no, Ian's correct. That's how we operate.
Yeah.
When we make security upgrades, we don't tell people what our security upgrades were.
Yeah, people
Except for the person who put gum under our table, we
Whoa.
have 24/7 surveillance camera, and we
looking
will
for you.
find you, and we will publish the footage.
Yeah, it's probably Dave Smith.
Throw your gum out before we go live.
As right before we went live, Michael noticed there was gum under the table. Someone
And it tasted terrible.
It was blue.
I know. Yeah,
You know who you are.
dry.
You
Michael
can
was
watch the
upset.
video of someone speaking who has blue tongue.
I think it was
Rewind the film.
like a mint. It wasn't like a bubble. It's not going to stay in their tongue.
Okay.
Good forensic examination.
I'm a
over
gum
there.
person. I know the texture.
Big
So
on gum.
but let me ask you, Michael, because I mean we've all talked about the Trump assassination stuff ad nauseum, but you said you got your tinfoil hat on. Who do you think? What do you think is behind this? And I'll say this too, so I can just tell you where I'm at. Some official capacity wanted Trump to die that day. Some official. I said this when we were at the RNC, right after it happens. Do people? So the three questions: does Trump derangement syndrome exist?
Sure.
Of course it does. Are there people? What was the second one I said? Are there people who were happy that this attempt on Trump's life happened and have expressed remorse that they didn't succeed? Absolutely. There's been man on the street interviews. And the third question is it possible that some of these people might work in government? Well, of course, absolutely. All of these things are one for one. So the idea that there could be someone in official capacity in the Secret Service that wished that actually happened to Trump is probably extremely high, especially considering, I think it was McNabb who said several members of federal intelligence agencies are expressing their intent to flee the country if Trump wins. So my position is the likely scenario in the Trump assassination is some official capacity.
Have you ever? I'll give you my answer. Have you ever had Jessica Tarlov on the show?
No,
She's a great lefty. She's on Fox, which is like in the Lion's Den.
I don't think they're allowed to come on the show.
Maybe. Okay. I had her on my show. I'm a big fan of hers. I think she's fights for her issues in an articulate and in sincere
I was
way.
praising her this morning, actually.
So I had her on my show, and we're talking about the Clinton, like the so-called the Clinton death list or hit kill list. And I said to her, I go, if I'm a president and I genuinely believe that it's important for me to stay in office and my opponent will cause harm to this country, and I'm responsible for causing wars, in which case armed men and women are going to die for my country, and I have those blood on my hand, but that's the responsibility I take. Why wouldn't I, hypothetically, just take out one person who I thought was a problem to what I think is best for America? If I can handle a war, what, I can't handle one? And she's like, yeah, you're right. Like she was like, okay, that logic makes sense to me. So hold on. So in this context, I completely agree with you that the so-called, look at J. Edgar Hoover. He had more power than many presidents. They would have to bend the knee to him. All our phones are tapped. They have compromat on pretty much any politician because you're not going to get to Washington without being highly corrupt. And I don't think any of this is really kind of in dispute. So I don't know if it was, I don't think it was planned, but I think if I'm the guy playing chess, I could set up the board that's like, I'm just going to leave these weaknesses and let things happen. Let the chips fall where they may.
Yeah, so
That's my position.
The way I explained it is it's actually much more simple than people realize. Now, finding someone who's crazy and would actually pull off a stunt like this is an operation indeed. But
It's just rolling dice. At a certain point, they're going to present themselves.
if they do it every time, all you have to do is whoever is organizing Secret Service, say there's 5 points of 5 vantage points. They then tell everybody, hey, I'm going to be assigning you your security position. We have 5 vantage points. I'll let you know where to go. Each of these individuals has no idea what other people are doing or what they've been assigned.
Right.
You can compartmentalize it very easily. So when no one is securing that building, even though law enforcement requested it 4 days in advance, all it takes is someone in logistics
Right.
to have not assigned someone the position. Then the question is, but people were screaming he's got a gun. How did Trump get released from holding? So they knew the guy was there. They have Trump in the holding position, which is a secure area before they release him. How did he get released? Simple. One person in logistics. They call and say, is the threat clear? And they go, yep, you're all good. All it takes. Yep, we're good. Send Trump on out.
But you know how else I think your theory holds credence? Because when I was a kid, showing my age, the whole point of the Secret Service is your job is to, if someone's firing, you're taking that bullet, you're taking that knife. Like they get trained for that. Like I'm taking my life for the sake of the president. It does not seem that when this went down, no one went on TV and is like, I take pride in this organization. The Secret Service has been protecting presidents for decades. This has destroyed our name. I take full responsibility. Like they should be on the verge of tears.
Yeah.
Because again, it's like Marines or any of these other like the Navy SEALs. They take themselves so seriously, and that brand is so important to them.
The brand is dead.
But you would think, but if the brand, they would be like, this can never happen again. I'm so sorry. as much transparency as possible without making someone in danger in the future, but be like, I resign. This is on my shoulders. No. I accept responsibility. Remember,
Instead, we got Kim Cheadle, who said the buck stops with me, except also local police was in charge of that building, which is bizarre anyways. She was immediately shifting blame away from the organization. She repeatedly said she wouldn't resign. Obviously, she did. And I think that speaks to sort of institutional rot within the Secret Service. Because, you get members of like the Trump family at praising individual, agents, saying they've been on my family's detail, we're close to them, whatever else. But the fact that the overarching leadership of this basically did nothing. She didn't even hold a press conference. Then Cheadle's first appearance was an ABC interview. That's how they view this, as their ability to become
Tim, we know this is true because in 2020, all these law and order figures sat in their hands while those cities burned.
Yeah.
So they were perfectly happy to see lots of people's lives get destroyed if it furthered their agenda.
30 plus deaths.
This is what I'm wondering, because
firebombing the St. John's Church, firebombing the White House grounds.
Utilitarian warmongers are like probably thinking, okay, they love Trump out of the way so that we can re-engage in the Middle East fully without any resistance. But if he dies, then his base is going to erupt in a fury, and we might have a civil war in our hands. We don't want that. But then if it's an external force that doesn't give a crap about the United States, they'd be happy to see it erupt into a civil war.
I slightly disagree, because if, God forbid, a president or a former president who's running for office gets taken out, that is a great excuse for authoritarians to be like, all right, we're cracking down, Patriot Act, everyone's a suspect. That'll give them the ability to really turn the screws.
And they had the Iran thing ready to go. The Iran story trickled out afterwards weekly. Like they were like, oh, and by the way, I guess Iran wanted an attempt on Trump's life, or is going to in the future now. We're like, wait a minute.
Focus away from what actually happened, though. Right. I mean, now when you look up Trump assassination attempt, a lot of headlines are that instead of crooks shooting Trump in the ear and then never getting an explanation from the Secret Service.
It seems just clear that what seems like the clear, obvious thing is that there was some sort of plan to assassinate the former president and then blame it on Iran and get us into a war with
They're
Iran.
talking more today about a line that Trump supposedly said in Charlottesville than the fact that one of the major presidential contenders and a former president was just almost murdered.
And I heard
someone actually was killed.
Well, and one of the emphasis tonight at the DNC.
2 people critically injured.
Yes.
One of the emphasis tonight at the DNC is victims of gun violence. Like, are they going to bring Trump out on stage? Probably not.
He's the special guest.
You know why they want Iran, too, so bad? It's because of the Gulf of Aden. If you look on the map, it's real apparent why. They took Kuwait in the 90s. So that's where they basically seized access to the Persian Gulf from Iraq. They took it and they made Kuwait whenever they made it. And so that's the American piece. And then they ship into the Persian Gulf, and then it goes through the Gulf of Aden. But Iran can block off the Gulf of Aden at any moment. Then we can't get our oil into the Indian Ocean. So we need that. You got Saudi Arabia there.
The Gulf of Aden
Is it pronounced Aden or Aden?
Aden?
Either, but it's very far away from Iran.
No, it's bordering it, man.
No, it isn't. You're talking about the Gulf of Oman.
Oh, Oman. Okay, thank you. The Gulf of Oman.
Is that what you meant?
Yeah. It goes Persian Gulf, Gulf of Oman,
but that
the Indian Ocean. So Iran's basically bordering it and patrolling the Gulf of Oman. If they shut it down, we can't get our Kuwaiti oil into the Indian Ocean. That's a big problem for the American war machine.
I think you got your regions mixed up, but you are correct.
Thank you so much.
Kuwait through the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman can get out into the Arabian Sea.
Yeah, and so that's why we're allies with Saudi Arabia, probably, is because it protects not only the Suez Canal, but the Persian Gulf oil access. And then Iran's just there like a thorn, literally in the side of the Gulf of Oman.
And let's also point out that Iran is Iran because the Shah was overthrown, because the U.S. is like, okay, go overthrow the Shah. And it's this really drives me crazy in contemporary politics when people are like, when something is bad, whatever the alternatives has to be better. It's the worst thing ever. It's like the Shah's authoritarian, he's terrible, which I'm sure was true. But then as compared to what? It's not always true that whoever replaces what's bad is going to be better.
Same with Saddam
It's none of our business.
As well, correct.
Let's jump to this story from Fox News. SCOTUS gives partial victory to GOP trying to enforce proof of citizenship to vote in Arizona. The law group says each state should determine its own voting process. In a 5-4 ruling Thursday, SCOTUS gave a partial victory. The court was asked to allow enforcement of sections of Arizona's law requiring documented proof of citizenship to cast a ballot in the presidential election, including when voting by mail. The Republican Party of Arizona said on August 15th that it had filed an emergency application pending appeal for the U.S. Court of Appeals Ninth Circuit in support of HB 2492, a law requiring proof of citizenship to vote in the presidential elections. A federal judge had blocked the enforcement of the law, which prompted the appeal to the high court for temporary relief. The Constitution gives states the power to set voter qualifications, and Arizona is leading the charge to ensure only citizens vote in our elections. The Arizona GOP tweeted, "This case has the potential to prevent non-citizen voting once and for all, which should have been the case all along." Now, I got a question. Why are Democrats opposed to citizens requiring proof that they're citizens?
But I mean, really or ostensibly? You know the answers to both.
Both. Well, I know, but we'll say it for the audience.
Well, I mean, really, it's because they want to make sure the people are going to be voting for them. And ostensibly, what they say, because poor people don't have ID? Like, it's something crazy like that.
I think they say black people don't have ID.
But not in Arizona. That's not going to
I don't think that matters. I think they just say black people anyway.
But it's
it's illegal immigration. Let's just be clear.
But the truth is,
I don't think it's illegal immigration. I think it's also illegal people voting repeatedly.
I think it's a lot of things. That's fair.
Yeah, it's not only illegal.
I think illegal immigration in Arizona is the issue, though, because it has such, the proximity to the border. I mean, what's interesting about this is that when you read it, it's, you go on the Secretary of State's website, and it's like, yeah, when you want to register to vote, you can bring your driver's license, or you can bring, a photocopy of your birth certificate or your tribal ID number. I think all of these very reasonable things, tons of options. It's not like you have to have just one form of proof of citizenship. And the argument from voting rights group is, well, you're going to make it difficult for lots of people. And also, when they go to verify people's citizenship, this could threaten millions of Arizonans. So you're saying that there is a problem, that there are non-citizens voting in elections in Arizona.
I don't understand, and I think it's very un-American that this idea that we should make it as easy as vote as possible.
Yeah,
it should not be. It should be very difficult.
No sense to me.
At least intermediately challenging. Yeah. Not like anybody can trip over a rock and vote.
I don't even think it's that challenging to be like, here is my driver's license. Here's a copy
and my male genitalia. Those two things.
And the problem is that conservatives, libertarians, and not necessarily libertarians, but probably more so, are willing to accept the lightest form of argument, which is we just want IDs. Okay, how about this? We'll play the big ask. In order to vote in this country, you need an ID, 2 credit cards, a bank, a debit card.
3 years of tax filings.
3 years of tax filings. And then when they say that's insane, no one would ever vote, we go, okay, fine. How about we settle with your birth certificate, social security card, and an ID?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Do you know what I think? Can I change the subject a little bit about the Supreme Court? Because I think this is a really smart move for the Republicans. They should say they have to do this, because there's been enough talk bubbling under from Warren and all these other types that we are going to have a constitutional amendment to limit the Supreme Court to 9 members. And if the Democrats vote no, they say, if you vote no, we're going to pack the court. So either we settle this argument once and for all, or you guys want to play this game, we'll play it first. Because otherwise, they're all talking about so-called rebalancing of the court, which means adding however many to make it a left-wing court.
It would be 13.
Yeah.
A total. So
at least.
Right. But you know the reason for that, right?
So that they win.
There's federal districts for each justice.
Okay.
But some have more than one because at a certain point we stopped adding justices.
Okay.
So the argument for adding more justices is, I think we have 13 federal districts. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe
that's
it's 12.
the ostensible argument.
I guess
it might be 12.
I'm wholly not opposed to more judges. To be honest, I don't like the less judges. It feels like the worst. If we had one judge, that would be the worst case scenario. That one guy gets to decide everything. So at least we have a group of people, like a tribal elder, 12 elders.
Okay, I'm not going to live in the longhouse with you hippies, like this tribal. Why?
It's too late. You're right here.
Dang it.
Well, but I don't know. I get nervous about a small group of people making epic decisions for 350 million people.
Yeah, but always the Senate's 100. The presidency's 1.
Yeah, but they're wholly ineffective. I mean, there's 450 people making decisions for the rest of us. Leaves the rest of us in the cold. I got to tell you,
it's easy. I'm sorry, Drop. Go ahead.
No, and then the businesses will bribe these people to make decisions outside. The will of Congress is basically the will of the lobbyists and the big money, and the rest of us are left wondering why are drug prices so high.
But you did just bounce from Congress, or from Supreme Court having too few, and then Senate has too few, but now Congress has too many. I agree with you. It is difficult to determine what the most effective way to govern is. On the other hand, our system is developed to have checks and balances, and if all of the branches of government function the same way, we would have the same kinds of problems over and over again.
Like in the New Deal, yeah.
Yeah, I think the other part, I just want to jump back to this for a second. So the partial victory is that in Arizona, they are allowed to enforce their proof of citizenship requirement. But if voters register via a federal form, they don't have to provide proof of citizenship. So that means that the state has done a really good job of securing election integrity, in my opinion, for Arizona, for any position in Arizona. But on the federal level, anyone casting a presidential ballot, they don't need to verify that there is proof of citizenship.
I also don't agree with the conservative argument that if the Democrats are stealing the so-called stealing the elections, they're doing it through illegal immigrants. I think it's much more they would do things like filling out forms for other people. Like how when you have a campaign contributions, like it's in my name and I just put your guy's name as if you contributed, like stuff like that. They don't need to deal into that kind of illegal area when there's enough that they can deal with in a gray area, especially in cities, to put them over the top.
Here's an easy one. somebody who lives in Arizona, in Phoenix, and then moves to Los Angeles, and a mail-in ballot arrives at their old address in their name. They vote somehow.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
They vote in both states. Arizona and California don't come together and say, "Can we compare notes?" Right. So you've got 50 states. If they cast ballots in the name, and you know what? Let's just say this. Let's just say there's a Democrat out there who thinks, I got to do whatever it takes to stop Donald Trump. So whoops, I just forgot. I voted twice. Yeah. Now they voted twice in 2 different states. And if it's Illinois and it's LA or California, those states don't compare their voter rolls and see who did it. Matt Braynard did this, and he found duplicates in Arizona and California. And then what happens? Nothing.
But I think people also don't appreciate, and maybe COVID didn't teach them enough, that this country is a lot more loving of authoritarian than we would like to believe. Like, there are a lot of people in this country, who would want to go back to COVID era America. Like, they were happier there because they like their cage.
Yes, they're Democrats.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty terrifying to think of. That, like with the Kamala Harris situation, where they installed a candidate and people are like clapping like wild animals at the.
But they, look, I think for those that saw the graph that I posted about the Krasensteins and didn't understand it, a few people really hit the nail on the head with what the graph meant. It is I responded to Ed and Brian, the liberals, and it's a graph showing on one axis intelligence.
Put it up.
Oh yeah, I'll pull it up.
Yeah. I love these guys, by the way.
The Krasensteins?
Oh yeah, we love the Krasensteins.
We had a great
Are they even shorter than me?
Actually, we were all sitting down. I didn't get a good look at them. I did the debate with Alex
The first
Jones.
thing, the first graph I'll show you is just for fun. It's Kyle Kalinski's ability to recognize farms from an airplane correlated with his use of X. And the more he uses X, the higher his ability to recognize farms from an airplane. This is just a joke because Kyle Kalinski once famously posted a photo from an airplane where he was looking at a bunch of farms and he says, "Wow, I wonder why it looks like that." And everyone was like, are you joking? Those are farms.
How's he expected to be a serious pundit on politics and everything? He doesn't know what farms are.
Yeah, should I pull that one up? I mean,
this makes me sad.
Yeah. You know Kyle?
It's
not
like, but it's like when Sarah Silverman had those, what was it, swastikas on the floor? And they were like construction markings, where that reporter found rubber bullets and thought they were, I don't remember what he thought they were.
Okay, here you go. He says, this is the land by Colorado-Kansas border from a plane. Pretty cool. I have no idea how or why it looks like this. Paul Joseph Watson says, it's called farming.
People are supposed to take him
But
serious.
at least he's honest. He doesn't know.
This is years ago. This is a long time ago. But anyway, that was a joke. But this is what I wanted to show you. I completely forgot what we were talking about before.
This is talking about voting.
So, and the Democratic Party. Right.
Yeah.
Yes. So I made this. It says Brian Krasenstein's intelligence. And on the bottom axis, it's Brian Krasenstein's honesty. And the more honest he is, the lower his IQ. And the more dishonest he is, the higher his IQ. The point being made is that he either knows that he's lying to you or he's really stupid. And a lot of people figured it out, but a lot of his fans were like, what does it even mean? I don't even know what you're trying to say. I'm like,
I also want to point something else out on the screen, that you're following him, but he doesn't follow you back.
Oh.
Brian.
He doesn't follow me back?
Look on the right.
Oh, you're right. He doesn't follow me. Well, you see, I'm interested in hearing all different perspectives. But it was where he was making fun of J.D. Vance. This is the point I'm making. There are people like the Krasensteins who will not tell you they do want the authoritarian COVID-style lockdown regime. If you look at Mike Bloomberg, you understand their mentality perfectly. Bloomberg said we should tax the poor because they're too stupid to make their own decisions.
He said that?
Yes.
In those
on stage. He didn't say it literally that way. He said something, I'm paraphrasing, but he did say, poor people don't know how to take care of themselves, so we should tax them so that we can spend money for them and they will be better off. Mike Bloomberg literally said this at a public event live on stage. Something that affects.
Isn't that the argument behind like food stamps and Medicaid, though?
Yeah, I can't disagree wholly with
the
that
argument. The argument for food stamps is basically sometimes the ostensible,
right? Yeah,
is sometimes people fall in hard times.
Sure.
And we have unemployment benefits, disability benefits, food banks, and these things to help lift you up so that in your time of need, you can get back on your feet. What Bloomberg and many of these liberals are arguing, and they won't, the point about this graph I made is that Brian's not going to tell you. He knows what he's talking about. He wants a system by which powerful elites tell everyone else what to do because he's one of these people who thinks everyone else is just too stupid to function properly.
Can I have just one Ayn Rand quote where she says, anyone who wants more power for the state is or wants to be the state?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Interesting.
I think what you end up seeing with the left and the right there are many different components that make up the tribalism of the left and the right. Some say it's authoritarianism versus, libertarianism, or nationalism versus globalism, whatever. But a component certainly is people on the right tend to be individuals who think a decentralized power structure is better.
Correct.
And the left are people who want a centralized power structure.
With themselves at the center.
Yes. And so people like the Krasensteins, who are very well off relative to the average American, presumably based on what they earn on X and the things they've posted, though they've later said they don't make that much money, but they've got large followings.
Sure.
So based on that,
And they do a good job for what they do.
Absolutely. I look at them, and having talked to them, there's no, a better example is at the Krasensteins. The only reason I use them so often is because they do interact. I give them that respect. They interact in ways other liberals don't. But David Pakman's a really great example. Oh, he's a really great example of someone who knows he's lying, and I know for a fact he knows he's lying. Because some of the stories that he's researched for his segments, there's no way you could accidentally come to the conclusions he's come to.
Have you ever had him on the show?
No, he wants to come on the Culture War, and again, I'll give people respect in this regard. He hosts his own show. For him to take time off his own show to come here would be doing me a favor. But we are working on having him come on, and he wants to only do a one-on-one with me.
That'd be cool.
Now, sure. And I think I was just shown by our booking agent this big long list of all of the leftists and liberals that have been invited on the show and how they either give an excuse or don't respond at all. And there's an obvious reason why they won't come on. They cannot handle an actual conversation around the issues. They can handle Charlie Kirk. With all due respect to Charlie Kirk, they can handle Charlie Kirk because Charlie's going to debate for Trump. And he's going to debate for conservatism, and that's all that's going to happen. So if they say something like Trump did bad thing, the typical response you get from a conservative is, oh, yeah, well, what about X?
Yeah, what about Biden?
What about Biden?
Yeah.
Whereas a debate with Michael Malice, for instance, or Dave Smith, or with me is going to be, okay. Like I was telling Michael.
Can I say one thing, though? There's something else in addition to that, which is and I've used this example a lot. When I was growing up, you had the WWF wrestling, and then you had the NWA where Ric Flair was the main champion. And sometimes people come up from NWA to WWF and they pretend this person just never existed before. And they had this kind of synthetic reality where these other people just don't exist and you don't know how to change the channel. So I think for a lot of these lefties, if their audience is never, your name is never mentioned, or some of these other people, it's effectively for their audience, this person doesn't exist.
Yeah.
They don't want to validate your existence.
draw any attention
Yeah,
to
because it's like otherwise you literally, no one I know listens to Tim Pool. He's a nobody.
I've never heard of that guy.
I've never heard that guy.
So I mentioned this the other day on the show, but I'm saying it not for the audience who's heard me say this 3 times now, but for Michael. Pete Buttigieg was on Fox News.
Right.
He's bragged about it. He went to DNC. He's like, you may have seen me on Fox News. He repeated the line, crime went up under Trump. And Fox's response was to hem and haw and deflect and say, oh, but you can't say that. Oh, but what about this? What about that? When the appropriate response is, oh, okay.
Right, yeah.
That's it. Right. Wow. Yeah, sure. And my response to Pete Buttigieg is specifically, and that's why when Trump was president and crime went up, we talked about it every single day. And we didn't ignore the fact that Trump was president. In fact, we complained Trump wouldn't invoke the Insurrection Act to stop the...
Day 2, after the riot started, I walked into the living room where you were, and I was like, why is he not calling in the National Guard?
So to say, but crime went up under Trump, my response is, you are correct. And so what we were looking for was either governors to do the job Trump was unwilling to do, which they did not, and Trump wouldn't intervene either. Now Trump's got an excuse. He's not the governor. He's at the federal level, and he would have to step over the states, defying them to invoke the Insurrection Act.
And the media. And call him a Nazi.
And I can understand why he didn't want to do that, although I'm disappointed in it. Correct, Pete Buttigieg. Now, I think a lot of conservatives would just say, oh, that's not true, blah, blah, blah. Let me find my stats that prove me right, instead of actually just saying, fine, I don't care. When the Krasenstein said, oh, you're calling price controls Marxist, is it Marxist when Trump does it? My response is yes. Next question.
So weird.
This is why they won't come on the show, though. Because then what's the answer? I agreed with you. Next. They don't have one.
I want to talk about this authoritarian, like how you guys are talking about appeal to authority and how some people want more state power and like the value of state power and how sometimes large swaths of stupid people can't make decisions for themselves. Because I've been thinking a lot about utilitarianism and the reason why...
Run away. It's not good.
The reason why we got sucked into war in the Middle East is because we need resources. Because if you have not enough resources, people will riot. So they're trying to...
That's not true.
We don't need
There's
resources.
lots of poor countries where people don't riot.
Well, the United States isn't used to being poor. So if all of a sudden we ran
there
out...
weren't riots, really.
What's that?
We had the Great Depression. There weren't like 2020 riots.
No, they sent them off to war right away, though.
No, they didn't. It was 10 years.
Yeah.
29 crash. We got into war, what, 38, 39?
Yeah, 30.
41?
I think it was later.
It was 41, right?
41.
Yeah, for Hub was 41.
Right before
What are we
the
talking
end.
about? Yeah.
41. Yeah. So, but that's one way to quell an angry populace, is to send them to war to die.
Sure, that's true.
But like, I don't think everyone can make. I mean, that's why we have better men in the Constitution. Why we have a small group of people kind of making these decisions for the
I
masses.
don't believe in democracy. It makes no sense.
About letting the crowd make the decision is like, most people. I don't know if it's not that they're stupid. It's just that
But it's also
not everyone's a genius.
But it's also they're irrelevant. Like, I don't, just because if aristocracy, we all agree, I should hope, makes no sense. You're born into this family, therefore you have a right to tell me how to live my life. That's crazy. However, if you live 500 yards away from me, then you have a right to tell me how to live my life. What?
Yeah, you would think meritocracy.
Sorry. What the heck are you talking about?
Through like a meritocracy, you would elect the best people to run the show, so you can sit back and just
enjoy it. The best people aren't going to run. And the people who run the show, run those Windows elections, are people who win popularity contests. Go back to your high school and think who won the popularity contest and ask yourselves, are these really the best people? They're not.
And the proof is Dave Smith. He didn't run. The best libertarian candidate was Dave Smith. He didn't want to run.
Oh, he'd be a disaster. And I say this as his...
You don't think he'd be good?
Oh, I know this as his press secretary. He would be a disaster.
In what way?
I'm joking.
But he would have been better than literally anybody else that was running.
Correct.
No
That's
question.
not even I was teasing.
From his wit, his intelligence, and
Dave Smith?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely. And
Best press
his
secretary ever,
connections.
by the way.
His connections, his friendships, his network. And he didn't want to do it. And I get it. I respect it. A lot of people don't want to step up and enter the fray in this way that doesn't reward you other than society itself, right?
Sure.
Like the structure of society itself. And then you look at someone like Tucker Carlson, right? He doesn't want to run either. And a lot of people
I don't
wish he
blame
would.
him.
Right.
So
this
you get
is
people
the
that are
challenge
rich.
with politics. No, you get people of little societal value.
That's what it is. They don't step up to the plate. They
Sociopaths.
Politicians are people who lack the skills to win, so they say, how about I just get in government? Then I want my name on the annals of history. Here's my path to doing it. I'm not good at it.
Why would you put your family through this? I asked this of Vivek. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? I asked this of I had Amash on my show too. I'm like, you have a great wife and you're really into being a dad. Why are you doing this?
What was their answers?
And Amash had a good point. He goes, I left Washington for a while. We had a good talk. The kids are a little older. And the guy they're running right now in Michigan is he's even worse than Mike Pence. Like, I feel like I could put a stop to it. I'm like, hey, that makes sense to me. But Vivek was like, listen, I feel like I'm saying things no one else is saying. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense to me too. And he knew he was. I know what he said on purpose on public. He knew he wasn't getting the nomination, but he sure moved the needle and he sure made a name for himself. So his campaign was a great success.
Yeah, he set a lot of conversations for.
Yeah.
Let's jump into this story from the Washington Examiner. Ken Paxton launches election fraud investigation. This is big news. He said, secure elections, I believe this is secure elections are the cornerstone of our republic. We were glad to assist when the district attorney referred the case to my office for investigation. We are completely committed to protecting the security of the ballot box and the integrity of every legal vote. This means ensuring accountability for anyone committing election crimes. He's basically saying, let me read. In one investigation, which has been ongoing since 2022, the OAG's Criminal Investigation Division executed multiple search warrants on Tuesday in Atascocita, Bexar, and Frio counties. The investigation launched after the office received a referral from 81st Judicial District Attorney Audrey Lewis regarding allegations of election fraud and vote harvesting that occurred during the 2022 elections. After gathering evidence, the office obtained search warrants to further the investigation. No other details are available since the investigation is ongoing. He also announced that there were groups trying to register people to vote outside of certain administrative buildings where you already were registered to vote inside, and that the only reason they'd be outside is because people who got turned away would then go to these other groups to try and get registered again, which is to imply these people are not eligible to vote and they're getting they're getting their registrations filled out illicitly. Texas, interesting. The polls are the narrative we're receiving now is that the polls are tightening in Texas. It was 9%. Now it's 7%. Now it's 5%.
Trump and Kamala?
Yep. Now it's 5%.
And Ted Cruz only have 2 points in the last point.
Right. And hey, man, I called this a long time ago that with the Help America vote verification system showing Texas getting hundreds of thousands of registrations with no IDs, something was wrong. And the hypothetical was they'll start reporting that Texas is actually a purple state and it's getting close and it could flip. That way, no matter what Trump wins, it's over. If Texas flips, Trump cannot win. If Trump wins every single swing state and loses Texas, he still loses.
Here's the other thing. Texas has even though Texas is like deep red and like good old boys and all that other stuff, and I say this as a lifelong native Texan, we have a very bizarre state government where the Speaker of the House or the Senate Majority Leader is a Democrat, and they basically just pick whoever they want. It's even though they just completely just try to take out Ken Paxton.
Correction. If Trump wins every swing state and Texas flips, Republicans still win by 2.
Oh,
But they are so if he would have to win every single swing state.
Wait, how many states is that?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Let's just hit the map. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 states that are considered up for grabs right now: Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, and Nevada. If Trump wins all of those and loses Texas, he still wins.
But wait, hold on. There's also those districts in Maine and Nebraska.
They're up there. So
I'm just saying, yeah.
Agreed. I don't see that. I mean, if Trump lost both of these, you want to know what happens if if both of these go? Let's.
Right, there's a way to do it where it's a tie.
Yep, and not that one. There is a way to do it where it's a tie. We went over this, and I forget what it is. I forget which states they have to win and Trump has to lose or whatever. But yeah, it could end up 268 to 268 if. Oh, I know. It's if one of the. I think if Nebraska goes full red, and then Trump wins a certain amount of states.
Yeah.
It ends up as a tie or something. I think if Kamala wins PA, I don't know.
This is a great website, 270towin.com. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to find the tie.
Wasn't
We
Missouri
pulled it up before.
Missouri really big on the registrations and they're not coming through as rural registrations? They really had high numbers when we went over them a couple weeks ago.
I mean,
like them in Texas.
Yeah,
were huge.
Missouri had the large amount
Yeah.
of dead people
Yeah.
trying to register to vote.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of next generation, though, a lot of these illegal immigrants are going to have anchor babies. And I know we're not supposed to use that term, but like, what are you supposed to do with that?
Yeah.
But that's
bad.
why
Probably
Democrats
end
do this.
birthright.
Of course, yeah.
The-
I agree with you.
they're thinking long term.
Yes.
But we are at a point. This is what I was talking about yesterday. We are not voting for a president. We are voting for a system. The Democrats right now have entrenched themselves in a system where there's no primary. They choose who the candidate's going to be. There is no campaign at all. Kamala has no positions. She's advocated for nothing. Her website lists nothing. She was installed. Will you vote for that? Yes or no? Donald Trump he's got Agenda 47. There was a brutal primary where friends became enemies.
Yep.
Do you want to vote for that system?
But here's the other thing. This isn't really new because they did it basically in '08 with Hillary. And they remember Debbie Wasserman Schultz says, "Oh, we're having debates for maximum visibility." It's like 12 o'clock on Mother's Day, like just these bizarre.
You know what, 2016 or 08?
2016, excuse me. But in '08, for people to remember, the reason what you're saying, Tim, is not always a strength; it's also a weakness. Because in '08, when Hillary was definitely going to be the candidate for the Democrats, and she had that ad about like, "I want to make America wonderful," and let's have a conversation. It was completely innocuous. And then a fan, made an ad of the 1984 Apple commercial and had someone swinging a sledgehammer and smashing into her face, and the Obama logo came out, and all of a sudden there was a race in their hands. So this whole like, I'm not going to have any policies on paper might be a smart move, but it does not really, at least it hasn't worked in the very recent past.
But my point is simply there are people screaming and cheering for a system. That is, Kamala was chosen. No one voted for her, and she has no policies. And there are people like, I'm voting for that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, that was the Biden campaign was, I'm not Trump. Trump sucks.
Oh,
Sure.
man.
Right,
This is
right,
like
right.
And it worked.
It's the same campaign today.
It's the same campaign.
It's the third
I
time they've
disagree.
run like this.
I disagree that it worked.
Because he's in the White House.
There's other things that. So Democrats didn't win the argument. They won
That's
the
correct.
procedure.
I'm not arguing with that at all. They did not win the argument.
So Biden's campaign of "I'm not Trump" is not winning an argument. They won procedurally.
Correct.
They had better lawyers. They had better a better ballot harvesting apparatus.
Sure.
And the Republicans had no idea what was going on.
Correct.
The Republicans were sitting there, were standing up there being like, if we argue the best, we'll win. And boy, howdy, did he argue the best. The metrics were showing that economically Trump should win, albeit COVID kind of jammed things up. And then ballot harvesting happens. And that's the simplest way to explain it. You also had things like voter in the park or whatever, things that were challenged constitutionally. You had Pennsylvania violating its own constitution to create universal mail-in voting, which I don't think is answered properly in the courts. Texas v. Pennsylvania was never answered properly. Democrats rules lawyered. They figured out the meta of the game and solved it. And the Republicans thought they were playing they were playing above board and they were going to win.
That's an argument for their Democrats. They know how to work the system better.
Right. So, but my point is, right now, the Democrats. I mean, fine, 2020 and now the Democrats' whole thing is there is no election. I mean, since 2016 with ousting Bernie. The Democratic Party represents sit down, shut up, and let us figure this out.
But that's popular.
And that's my point.
Yeah.
But that's
So,
why
so
they're
right
copying-
now, the election is not Trump v. Harris.
I agree with. We're on the same page.
It is communist style of governance with the political party that chooses what you do versus constitutional republicanism, where friends become enemies and we argue. We have a primary and the popular candidate wins, and then he lists his agenda, and then we decide if we like what he has to offer.
I kind of like the first one in the
Superdelegates?
sense of I don't really want to hear from everybody. Like, I think we heard from a lot of people during COVID, and the things they have to say are not things I'm interested in hearing because they make no sense even on their own face. Like, why are we doing social distancing in March and then we're not doing it when the next wave comes? When what was it a mistake then or was it a mistake now?
Right, but the first system is those people in charge.
Right.
When was-
Not necessarily.
So this is-
the argument for some of these people in the Republican Party is like, we're going to become those people, which I don't think can be done, but that's their agenda.
The Democrat
That's
plan
the idea behind Project 2025, ostensibly.
is what?
That like we're going to get, because the whole idea behind Project 2025, if I understand it correctly, not how it's been maligned, is Heritage is like, okay, Trump's biggest Achilles heel is he had to drain the swamp by staffing the swamp, right? So if we put forward a bunch of people who are ready on day one, like Betsy DeVos, who have like an ideology and who could start reverse engineering this Leviathan, we can actually get things done. So that was their proposal. Like, here are the policies, here are the people, let's get going immediately instead of calling up Reince Priebus or asking Mitt Romney to be possibly Secretary of State. And then it's been demagogued.
And then it's like 6 months into,
Right.
whatever term.
And then it's been demagogued in this thing like, oh, he wants to ban pornography. Like, that's his whole agenda.
Yeah, I think that is. We just had Paul Dans on last night who created it.
Oh, okay.
Well, he was the
basically
director of
brainchild.
it.
Yeah. Or-
But they.
And I'm sure he's not some kind of wacko. I'm sure he's very
No,
it
mainstream.
was all about organization.
Normal dude.
Exactly,
Very
exactly.
normal
Very
dude.
Comparing the
And he said they've
deconstruction.
written this for every administration for
course.
50 years.
Yes.
The Democrats are just pretending like it's something.
Correct.
I'm trying to figure out when were superdelegates introduced. Is it 1968?
It's been a long time.
That's the totalitarian
It's not totalitarian.
No, it's
though.
incrementalism.
Yeah, exactly.
superdelegates where they can say this is our candidate.
They
Voters sit down?
superdelegates aren't allowed to vote in the first round. So if there's an overwhelming primary, superdelegates don't do anything. But if the primary does not result in a clear winner, then they have a round of voting with no majority. Then the superdelegates can come in, and so they can stop, Obama if they wanted to, but they chose not to. But they did choose to stop Bernie Sanders. So
But
yeah,
the thing
it's
is, they also
political-
but it also makes sense because they have skin in the game. Like, if I'm John Tester, I'm not excited about having Kamala Harris at the top of my ticket.
Republicans don't have this. I
and
think
Tester never endorsed her, right? Because he's
Is that true?
Yeah.
No way.
From Montana?
He hasn't endorsed Kamala?
No, he hasn't endorsed Kamala, and he's in such a tight race in Montana because I think Montana's only Democrat, and he's vulnerable this
he
year.
won't win.
He's not going to. I think the Senate's gone for Democrat. Here's my prediction: West Virginia is obviously given for the Republicans. I think Tester's a goner, and of the three between Michigan, Nevada, and there's a third one.
PA's got one.
PA.
Casey's up.
One of those three is going to go Republican. No, Ohio's the third one. One of those three is going to go Republican. of those three.
There's no way red state Democrat senator wins. It's just not happening. The polarization is too real.
I think so. And
I don't know. Nevada could go Trump in the federal, and Jackie Rosen could be reelected. It's not inconceivable to me.
Well, Nevada's a swing state.
Sure.
Montana and West Virginia are mega country.
Correct, yeah.
I think Montana is actually Wyoming's the most.
Yeah, Jussie Smollett just got lynched there last week.
Wow.
A rough couple of years.
And but the corporate press won't tell you about that because they're bought and paid for by the Republicans.
Let's do this. I want to jump to this shocking website, project2025.com.
I got to tell you, Daily Wire got this.
Yeah.
I didn't think these guys had it in them because this
I know.
is such a beautiful hipster throwback. It's something out of Tim and Eric. It looks like GeoCities.
Yeah, it does.
It's just
Nice.
I'm impressed.
Let's slow down.
Okay,
So this is the Project 2025 website. Daily Wire bought the URL from Heritage Foundation. It's the only explanation, I suppose, because when we were reporting on the story, we went to project2025.com and pulled up their website. Now it redirects to this fake website where it says it looks. It's a fake website promoting. Look at this. It's broken. The counter is just going crazy. It's a promotion for the movie
that
Am I
was on
Racist?
purpose.
Yeah.
The counter.
They're going crazy?
No, I thought.
yesterday it was counting.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know,
this is
so
it's
many
broken.
people.
I thought
Right.
this was just like a GIF.
And now there you go.
The actual website's .org. That's what Paul was saying
Oh, is it?
yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, so
2025.
so they bought this and it was actually .org then.
Yeah, well, that's what the website he shouted out last night at the end of the show. Project2025.org is their website.
You're right. That's what it is. So they bought the .com.
Oh,
But
wow.
Democrat voters who were like, what is this Project 2025 thing?
And by the way, if Christopher Cuomo wants to buy ChristopherCuomo.com, I'll take any offers.
You have it.
And JohnO'Brennan.com.
You've got ChristopherCuomo.com.
And JohnO'Brennan.com.
Can we do something with it?
What do you want to do?
I don't know. We sell hot dogs online or something?
That sounds great.
Hot dogs. I think we do better than hot dogs.
Let's sell these new protein
Oh, how about
bars.
SSRIs? Because
Did you see him on the floor of the DNC talking
was
crap
good.
about all the seats up top, the $100 million box seats? He's like, these are the people
$500,000
looking down
seats,
on you that are voting to take your country back. They're sitting up there watching you from above right now.
Cuomo, a man of the people, clearly.
It's a cool video.
Look, this website, I guess when you click anything, it just links you to their donate to the cause.
Beautiful.
It links you to
I'm
join the
shocked
Daily
that they had it
Wire.
in them. I'm shocked.
I know. I'm very impressed, especially with Am I Racist? Like this mockumentary style.
So is that really Matt on the floor of the DNC?
Yes.
That was
Yeah.
really him? I thought it was a joke.
Well, whoever
this
is
is-
coming up with their guerrilla marketing campaign is a genius. Like, this is fun.
And I got to say, this is some of the most effective activism. And I'm surprised, like you said, the Daily Wire has it in them. What is a woman was great. This Next Degree, they're doing this. It's basically a sequel of sorts. It's round 2. Am I Racist? Where they actually got him with, was it Robin DiAngelo? Is that her name?
Yes.
Holy crap.
And she didn't know who he was. And she leans over in the trailer and she's like, we got to be careful. You never know who these people are. And he's like, yeah, of course.
Never be
He's
too
actually.
No, he also had Sarah Rayo, who's the greatest person.
Yeah.
I love her.
And they got in these meetings. This is the 2016 energy of the memes that were helping Trump. Daily Wire's actually hit the nail on the head with this stuff. And this is the kind of edgy, funny comedy. A lot of people have criticized Daily Wire because they did Mr. Burcham, I think it was, and Lady Ballers. It wasn't really funny. They didn't do a good job of it. But with all the stuff they've attempted, this one, What is a Woman and Am I Racist have both already hit the nail on the head with the hammer.
They're funny guys. I think if they weren't political, they'd be really famous. It'd be a huge production company because they're political. They've got a niche.
No, I think they can get there. This proves it because this is a Borat level.
Yeah, yeah.
It doesn't need to be political. What's masterful about this is if I were going to strategize a political campaign to diminish. Actually, I'll give you an example. YouTube brought me in 10 years ago. I brought a bunch of YouTubers in to talk about the problem of ISIS extremism and recruitment on YouTube. And they said what's happening in the UK is that ISIS is making these videos where they're basically attacking the ideology of these young men who believe in Islam and then lying to them to trick them into coming to join ISIS. What do we do to counter it? Because when we censor these videos, they're not actually, what YouTube said was they don't break the rules. They just say, doesn't the Quran say this? Then shouldn't you do something like this? Wink, wink. They're like, how do we deal with that? How do we counter it? And you got a bunch of surface level garbage where people are like, well, you know, what you should do is make a video where you explain, hey, that video is not real, or put a flag on the video. My response was, why don't you make a show, comedy bits, with people who are not extremists and make sure you're propping up people who don't espouse that ideology. So you're countering speech with more speech. Then these young men who believe in this ideology and want to do good go towards where they see success. This is the point about, am I racist? Instead of what people criticized Lady Ballers for was that it was too on the nose. They were too preachy. This is just insulting these people. The whole thing is Matt Walsh going undercover to do the journey, do the work, and it's putting these people in the light of them being creepy, weirdo, crazy people. When we had that, what was that garbage show that went viral? New Norm. Did you see the New Norm thing?
No, what?
It was
You
animated.
didn't see the New Norm? Dave Rubin's in it.
Oh, I did see that. It was on X. They called it the
South Park of X.
South Park of X, and I saw one episode. It was pretty bad.
It was a pilot short where do I got to pull up the New Norm for Michael?
This is worth watching.
Is it?
Yeah,
Michael, he did do a denounce my whiteness online. He sat down with some people and they figured out who he was and they called the cops on him. And they were worried that they told the cops that they were going to break the window down because they were
That I
scared.
heard. That part I heard.
So this is the show, The New Norm, with 34 million views. Everyone hates it. I'll just play a little bit of it.
What's that?
Progress. It's the new norm.
Already.
Are they?
I'm the old norm. I want normal beer.
Warning, warning, perimeter reached.
Ugh. It's your fault I got house arrest.
You're the one who threatened the school board.
I gently suggested
Yelled.
they stop brainwashing my daughter that girls aren't girls and men aren't men.
Sometimes they're neither.
Okay, we don't need to watch anymore.
Yes, thank
Michael
you.
gets it.
Thank you. Thank you.
The point
He's
I'm,
falling asleep. Look at his face.
I'm not. I'm livid.
so the point
There's
I made
two genders, right and wrong.
the point I made about this is that the real way to do a show like that is to not have the wokeness be the crazy enemy. It's not to just rehash news stories. I said make a normal family sitcom where their neighbor is woke and is the butt of jokes. That's it. The woke neighbor comes over. They're friends with the woke neighbor. And the woke neighbor says, "You've got to come help me. The new movie theater opened and they're playing a movie that's racist." And
Like
they go,
Ned Flanders. basically.
Exactly. The neighbor is annoying, overly preachy,
Karen.
and is the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
A Karen.
Also, as an acting tip, don't emphasize the pronouns when you're talking. It's your fault. You say it's your fault.
And
You don't emphasize the pronoun.
I
It
also
diminishes
don't-
the
Ian
point.
took issue with the
Thank
acting.
you.
Right, though, he's right. I get that they're parodying the laugh track shows, but it's still painful to hear a laugh
That
track.
wasn't parodying laugh track shows. They're trying to make one. Everybody roast.
It's pretty literal.
No,
it's
are you
really.
serious?
You
No.
got to see it,
Yes.
dude. It's worth.
They weren't
mean
being
it.
meta.
strange.
It's not meta.
No, it's
they're,
not.
they're literally making a sitcom show with a laugh track. It's painfully
No,
bad.
it's it's meta because they're making fun of Archie Bunker.
That part.
They're not
is.
making fun of Archie Bunker.
That's Archie Bunker though.
Yeah.
the
I
character.
understand that, but they were serious.
Like they put it out there because they want to promote it.
I
and
feel
then
like
it
that
got
quote
shot
about
down.
how many levels are you on, man? Like I can't wrap my head around this at face
Wow.
value.
Maybe it's got 34 million
okay.
views. Maybe you're onto something.
So if you're correct on this, it's a leftist making fun of the right.
with Dave Rubin.
Yes, we're getting Dave Rubin to do it.
Wow.
And then,
Well,
yeah.
clearly the main character is supposed to be regarded facetiously to some extent. He's not looked at as the voice of sanity. He's Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker was the punchline.
Well, perhaps it's one big troll.
I'm not saying it's a big troll, but I'm saying you don't look at that character and think he's the voice of reason. You're encouraged to laugh at him.
I agree
Yes.
with you that it's poorly
Yes.
made.
You're telling me that character, the main character, the dad, is supposed to be looked at, presented as the voice of reason?
If this is one of, if you're correct on this one, and you may be, then it's either someone who knows nothing of the culture war trying to pander to the right to make money, and this is what they think they want to watch, or it's a leftist insulting the right by making a very, very awful show and then mocking them for making an awful show.
I think a lot of times people want to be like, and this only happens on the right, I'm making fun of both sides. Like, and the thing is, it's also ridiculous because when people say I'm making fun of both sides, like I'll call you annoying and you call me a rapist. It's like it's not really the same.
Larry L.
little different.
I think pretty sure Larry L. did it too, right?
Yeah, there's
Yeah,
a lot of big
because-
names.
So yeah,
Yeah. So I think it's quite literally conservatives tried making a show and it's miserable.
unless it's jujitsu, man. I don't know. Now I'm wondering.
But hold on.
They always make fun
Hold
of the
on.
dads.
If the show is called The New Norm, right? Isn't the premise that this old-fashioned guy is trying his best to adapt to what's the new norm? So the new norm is the norm, and he's the fish out of water.
Except that the new
So
norm
he's not the
is ridiculous.
He's
on
the pun
show.
of the jokes. Then,
But
yeah.
he's also
Yeah.
he's the punchline.
Yeah, it didn't make a lot of sense.
He can't convey. He can't be progress. He's just stuck in his
Right.
old norm ways.
So his friend shows up. I think it's Larry Elder who voices him, and then the woke guy goes, "But you're black," and he's like, "Oh, here we go," and it's presented from this lens of the normal guy, and his black friend, and he's wearing a Redskins shirt, are surprised at the woke, and then the woke guy gets a phone call from Rachel Levine, and
Really, Rachel Levine?
yeah, and a guy in the military guy.
Low hanging fruit. Good lord.
Yeah, it is.
Exactly. That's why everyone's roasting it. So anyway, to get away from all that, the point is doing these mockumentaries where it's Borat style insulting to the woke and the left without preaching for what you actually think.
You know who else does this perfectly?
Who does it?
Alex Stein.
Oh yeah, exactly.
And I owe Alex a big apology because I had him on my show not that long ago, and I'm like, dude, why'd you come so hard for Destiny? And then the assassination happened.
Then Destiny came back. Yeah.
Oh, the assassination attempt. Yeah, I was kind of spun out over that when he approached Destiny on stage at that Mines event.
Yeah, I was very upset.
Steven
Not
was-
very upset. I was like, dude, come on.
What did he do?
Like Destiny was on stage. Alex just crashed the stage and started screaming at him, and he was asking all these questions. Destiny couldn't even respond, and I'm like, what are you doing?
But the argument then is if
But Alex
people-
just explained it on my show.
Because if Alex hadn't done that, Stephen might not have spun out.
Yeah.
Real quick, Kamala Harris is going to be speaking at 10 Eastern then.
Interesting.
Oh.
They were reporting 9 this morning.
Right, but that's 9 Central.
They pushed her to 10?
NBC said 9
No.
Eastern this morning, but I could...
Because NBC5 Chicago says 9 p.m. hour.
We could keep the show going a little longer, but you know they're going to start late.
Destiny handled kind of well. He put his feet up.
Didn't
Really care what Alex was saying.
Do you think it's...
So Destiny didn't care. He put his feet up on the table. Didn't really care.
He did care because
He played it off, I guess.
Yeah, but what are you supposed to do?
Yeah.
But again,
get mad and fight.
But it's also like it's really effed up that you're on
Central
a stage, someone crashes it and given a mic. It's it's like what the hell's what am I supposed to do?
No one pulled him off.
Yeah,
stopped him.
But so I'm not familiar. He was basically it was not a bit. He was actually just going after him.
But in his Alex way, he had a smile on his face. He wasn't good. It's like I'm going to hurt him.
Yeah.
But it was still like, what are you doing?
It was very off. Yeah, it was very off.
Where was it at?
It was the Mines event
in Austin at the Vulcan, and Alex was like, "Your wife," and Steven's like, "Oh my God, again? Is this all you people?" And then he kind of lumped in this weird conservative people thing, and it's like just reinforcing his stereotype of crazy people on the right, which is not good for his brain and people on the left. So like I didn't personally, I don't know, man. I'm not much of a social jammer. I think honesty and kindness is the better path, but there is a place for Alex's style of comedy for sure.
No, and Alex explained it on my show and it made a lot of sense.
Cool.
Yeah. But I do think, Ian, you often take this approach where you can consistently give the benefit of the doubt and try to empathize with evil people.
Yeah.
You think Destiny's
turn
evil?
them to the light. I'm like Obi-Wan.
You think Destiny's evil?
I'm not talking about Destiny.
Okay.
I mean, I think Destiny's a bad guy for sure.
Okay.
If we get into the depth of his being, maybe we come to the conclusion that he's evil. We have to have a conversation about it. But I just mean Ian often says things like pardon Hillary Clinton. You know what I mean?
But that's kind of like a utilitarian hostage negotiation type of thing. Like pardon everyone, get it over with, and move forward.
Are you insane?
No. I want the lawfare to end, and I feel like if you can end it across the aisle all at once.
You could end it roaster style.
Michael is governors for Gitmo.
Yes.
Think about the Sith. If you strike one down, another one just pops up somewhere else in the universe.
So you got to build another lamppost.
So you want
to turn them to the light. That's the way to defeat the
Okay, you're going to turn Hillary Clinton to the light.
Yeah.
A little bit of kumbaya goes a long way.
That's the way.
So anyway, to the point of Destiny, in many of these circumstances, you have these. As I was explaining with the Krasensteins.
I'm triggered.
I know.
I'm not.
As I explained with the Krasensteins,
I've taught you nothing.
You've got these individuals know they're lying. Destiny knows he's lying. I have about most of his positions. Like he tries baiting me to. So we were talking on the show about why someone asked me if I would have him on the show after he gloated over the death of Corey Competore.
Sure.
And I said no because anybody who gloats. Anybody who intentionally breaks the rules of these social media platforms by glorifying, gloating, or encouraging violence, harm, and death would just get us banned. Destiny.
I could not wrap my head around that.
Destiny coming on the show would be an insta-ban for us. So it's not a question of, I said, I don't need personal beef. It's just, if we brought him on the show so he could articulate his position on why he wanted to glorify the death of someone who was murdered by a psychopath, YouTube would just delete the episode.
It's crazy.
So then he starts making up lies, lying about me, lying about my positions. It's been a month or two, so I can't remember the specific things he posted. But one example I can give you is he says, oh yeah, well, Tim had Laura Loomer on, and Laura Loomer called for the death penalty. And I was like, and we pulled that show off the air instantly. But he doesn't tell his audience that. He says, why is Tim Pool having Laura Loomer who says this? And then he doesn't clarify that actually we told her not to say those things. Don't glorify death, even in that circumstance. And we pulled the show because we say no to that.
You might not have known that the show got pulled.
Of course he does.
And it doesn't matter to him anyway.
When he was doing that episode,
he played the clip that literally showed the episode getting pulled down. That was part of the commentary saying, why did Tim pull the episode? He's lying. These people are lying. You don't spend your life on the internet reading all of the context and then going, oops, I made a mistake again. Oops, I made a mistake again. This is what I'm saying about David Pakman. The example I always give is when he played a clip of Ted Cruz on Meet the Press, and they asked Ted Cruz, do you really believe that Ukraine interfered in the 2016 election to help Hillary Clinton win? And Ted Cruz responds something to the effect of, the New York Times reported it. And then you hear a producer start laughing, and then David Pakman starts laughing and says something to the effect of like, wow, how stupid is he to believe this? There's no way David Pakman sourced the Meet the Press clip and did not see Politico and the New York Times reporting it as fact. He had to intentionally not read those stories. So when I see him do something like that, I'm like, what? Because I've known Pac-Man for like 12 years. Or we're going on. Yeah, I can't
No,
remember how.
2008. I've been watching his.
Met him during like the Occupy era. Like I don't know.
I remember when he had 700 subscribers on YouTube. I was like,
So
wow,
I've
wears a suit.
It's not like I'm friends with him or anything. I've known him for a long time. We've talked periodically. We've been at different events, and so I'm like, there's no way when you Google search this Ukrainian thing and Politico pops up and it says, and I'm going to pull it up because I always do, Ukraine Politico. Ukraine, it's saved in this computer because of how often I pull this up. Ukrainian efforts to sabotage Trump backfire. January 11th, 2017. Donald Trump wasn't the only presidential candidate whose campaign was boosted by officials from a former Soviet bloc. This is Kenneth P. Vogel and David Stern who reported this. This report was massive, and Ted Cruz was like, I saw it in the news. And then he runs a clip mocking Ted Cruz, and I'm like, he's intentionally lying. Anybody who reads the news for a living saw this story, knew that Ukraine did this. Paul Manafort went to prison over it. It was huge news. And he pretends like he doesn't know. These people are lying because that's why I show the graph of the Krasensteins. And I gave him a 200 IQ because I'm nice. When his IQ is either very high and he's completely dishonest or he's really stupid and genuinely believes what he's saying. But I don't believe for a second that somebody who reads the news all day is just like, it would be like, imagine someone stretched a sheet of 20-inch thick Swiss cheese over the Grand Canyon, and they're covering their eyes and spinning across it and dancing and missing every single hole, not falling to their death.
Did you ever see when Jesse Lee Peterson, praise be unto him, had Pac-Man on his show and kicked him off?
No, he kicked him off.
Why?
Because he's like, you didn't come here to tell the truth. You're a liar, and you're one of the children of the lie. Thank you for your time. Goodbye. Go find the clip. It's hilarious. Jesse Lee Peterson kicks off
beast mode.
David Pac-Man.
What were they talking about at the time?
He goes, is having military pay for transgender surgeries progress? And David was just kind of like, well, Jesse, you were for like spending less money on healthcare. And he goes, okay, thank you.
He's like kind of dodging giving a direct answer to the question.
I can't find it in the immediate. I can only find the hour-long
The reason I go...
it'll be at the very end. You could just... I'm telling you, like, you'll see where he kicks him off. It's not hard to find.
The reason I give these people benefit...
It's really worth watching, I'm telling you, for the audience.
It doesn't come up when I search for it.
I'll find it.
The reason I'll give people benefit of the doubt often is because I'm like, all right...
It depends on the person, though.
Yeah,
Ian.
it does. And the situation and the time. And
course.
because sometimes I will, sometimes I won't. Secretly, I'll have feelings and beliefs that I don't necessarily espouse publicly because I feel like as Americans... we're kind of on the same team whether we want to be or not.
No, we're not.
I don't always like my
that
teammates.
That is so crazy.
But dude, there's a lot of people in the world that are really not on our team. And there's
a lot of people in our country that are really on our team. How can you not know this?
At least we can communicate with them through English. Like at least we can
I don't know how that
that is such a non sequitur.
Michael, I have a question.
Yeah.
Are you voting for Trump?
I don't vote.
You don't vote?
You know I don't vote. I'm an anarchist.
Yeah, but
still.
I mean,
no but.
What do you mean?
What part of that's unclear?
Anarchist.
Yeah, I don't believe in voting. I believe in representation.
So I don't know. What do you think happens in November? What do you want to happen? What do you think's going to happen? What should happen?
I don't know about want because I don't think politics respect. If politics represented my wants, there would be a lot more lampposts. Let's put it that way.
What does that mean?
You'll figure it out. We don't want to get demonetized. I'm no Laura Loomer. The point being, I think he has it in the bag.
You think he's going to win?
I think Trump has it in the bag, and here's my reasoning, because I think it's very important as far as possible to get your emotions out of political analysis, right? And for me, the best indicator of future behavior is past performance. In 2020, she had her honeymoon period. In her first debate, she came out, Biden, you're a racist. That little girl was me. Goes up in the polls. Tulsi comes along, not only does she have not a response on the stage, Officer Harris, but then when Anderson Cooper, hardly some kind of alt-right freak, is like, what happened to the debate? She goes, well, I'm a top-tier candidate, so... And it's like, what? That's your answer?
Respond to the question
and then she collapsed and was down to
laughed.
1%, and she didn't even make it to Iowa. And here's the other thing. Let's suppose she is the perfect candidate and Trump is the worst candidate. I wouldn't wish on anyone to put together a presidential campaign in 100 days. That's not a thing. That's a nightmare.
Oh, right.
So I think he has in the bag. And
Would you prefer Trump to win?
I'm gonna dodge the question, but I'm gonna kind of answer it. I am and I talked to Brett Weinstein on my show this week. We discussed at length. I am absolutely terrified of Tim Walz.
Yes.
What?
I think she has. I'll tell you in a second. I don't think she has much positions one way or another. She was a conservative. She ran as like this law and order prosecutor in San Francisco, whatever, and now she's trying to avoid it. as I said many times, and no one here disagrees, that what happened during the lockdowns gave a lot of very evil people some very useful information about what people put up with government in terms of oppression. And they're cashing it in the UK right now. And if Tim Walz had his druthers, we would have that UK system in America today.
Has he done stuff in his state that indicates
He said explicitly that hate speech is not free speech.
Yeah.
So I'm extremely, and I also think he's a sociopath.
His wife said she opened the windows to smell the burning tires during the riots because it was like a symbol of the times, like history.
Signal. That was so
not a virtue signal. It's her.
She liked it.
Celebrating the rampage and the destruction because it suits her ideology.
From the governor's mansion.
From the governor's mansion.
That's the weird, gross part about it. She's like, oh, yes, everything's destroyed. But I'm actually in safety. Like, she's not a business owner in the middle of Minneapolis that's having to, later deal with the consequences of having
I'm going to text you the link, Tim, okay?
I think you're right. Putting together...
Send it on X.
Okay.
I think you're right, Michael. Having to put together a campaign in less than 100 days or about 100 days is crazy. And if you see that in the fact that Walz keeps getting caught in these like false stories, right? The stolen valor thing, this like, oh yes, I have my children because of IVF, but actually it turns out they didn't use IVF at all. And you also see in the fact that they're trying to make Kamala Harris cool by relying on pop singers, which I find fascinating.
What else do you want them to do?
It's fun,
right?
This is the thing. Like they need to like make it seem like she's already trendy, and that's why they're tapping into like Brat Summer or like the Waltz Harris camo hat.
They're trying.
I saw that Chapel Roan was like, "Is this real?" Because it's a ripoff of her merch.
They're
like
trying to
this
make
is
it
all
seem
they're
inevitable.
doing.
Like it's a fait accompli. And also they know that every time she opens her mouth, like disaster ensues.
Mm-hmm. Which is why she still has not done a major press conference.
Do you blame her?
Interview. I mean, it's a strategy for her, but like we are hearing from her from the stage, which is basically to say at a distance. They're not letting a journalist, even though journalists are sympathetic to her.
They tried. They tried this with Hillary before, and it didn't work for them either.
Mm-hmm. This is why I call you Gandalf.
Can fast forward to when he kicks them off.
Because you won't get into the political. You're like, I'm an anarchist. I can't touch the One Ring. I can't. I can only observe, but I can witness and explain it all.
I don't agree with that.
Let me see the other point of view. I think, and I don't think you guys here would disagree. I think the MAGA people disagree. I don't think if Trump becomes president, it's everything's going to be all roses.
Sure, I agree.
I think the backlash is going to be insane.
Yep.
I think they're already normalizing violence and against political figures and against citizens. So I think people who think he's going to come in and they're going to sit on their hands. We're up against some very, very malevolent people who've been at this game for a long time and would have nothing to lose. And it's very scary. I'm heartened, one thing, though. I'm giddy at the idea that RFK, who I do think is a sociopath, would be in charge of the CIA. I would be giddy about.
I am not a revolutionary. I'm a reformer, and I don't understand the worldview of Tim Walz is communist China level psychotic, but I won't be involved in any way. I don't understand that.
You don't think I'm involved?
Well, I think you're involved, but it's like the voting.
I don't think the voting is a good. I don't think my vote's going to matter, and I think I've.
Then why not just do it? Vote for Trump.
Because there's a lot. I don't think it's a good use of my time, and I don't believe Trump. I don't believe Trump represents me. Trump does not speak for me.
Yeah, I don't think he represents me very well.
Voting means he is representing you, quite literally.
Sure.
So I don't think Trump represents me. He does not.
I look at it more of as a mathematical equation, though. So by all means, don't vote. I don't know. But my view is I don't like the Republicans. I think I've said it quite a bit, especially over the past 8 years. Trump is of a certain character that I understand why people don't like the character that he brings to the White House. They wanted the suit-wearing noble commander-in-chief. That being said, no new wars, timeline for withdrawal. I see a net positive presidency in Trump. I think he's a funny guy. And so the simple net positive, the math there is I'll vote for him.
I would rather have, I don't want the guy in the suit, the nice guy in the suit, because that nice guy in a suit can pull off convincing moms that it's a good idea to kill their sons. Because he's respectable, he's on a pedestal. Whereas if you have a president who's regarded as more of a buffoon, as both in their ways Trump and Biden were, it's a lot harder to sell World War III.
Is that what you mean by wearing a suit? You can sell it to the mothers that they can go to war?
I think when you have an air of dignity and heft and seriousness, and you're like, we need to go to war, a lot of people be like, we're raised. Like, okay, this is our time. I have to be a patriot and I have to kill my kids.
You're in Texas.
Yeah.
And, as you mentioned, Ted Cruz only won by a couple points. So isn't it, if it doesn't matter one way or the other, Why not just
I
vote?
didn't say it doesn't matter one way or another. I don't think it's a good use of my time, and I don't believe in it. That's the same reason I go to church. I think church is a good thing. I think it's a very good thing when people find God or Christ and accept morality into their lives, but I don't believe in it.
So is that to say you don't think it would have any impact whatsoever? Like
It's both. It's both. I don't believe in it, and I'm opposed to it. And also, there's no way my vote's going to be of any significance.
I disagree with this. I can certainly agree with you if you think it's not going to matter anyway. If we make the argument Texas is not at risk at all, what does it matter? Fine, whatever. But I certainly think there's significance and there's an important function to it.
Sometimes what's an important function?
To voting?
But there's so many better things I could do with my time to make the world a better place.
5 minutes?
But yeah, we were talking about a couple minutes.
Yes,
Sometimes
a couple minutes. Yes,
applying
absolutely.
pressure in one place actually creates more resistance than if you didn't apply any pressure at all. So
Graphene.
like certain people might be better off not getting involved because of the way they're able to influence society outside of that paradigm. And you might be one of those people. I mean, you're like almost like a brilliant social scientist. If you get too political, then the people that you talk to across the aisle might not want to be as involved.
Here's how let me say one thing. Here's how I influence politics. I donated money to 2 candidates. And that to me is more important and more efficacious than voting. I donated to Biden the primary because I want him to be the nominee. And boy, did I have return on that investment.
Nice.
And I also donated to John Fetterman. And these,
Nice.
I know how to pick winners.
let me ask you: Do you think Dave Smith will vote for Donald Trump?
No.
Do you think Joe Rogan will vote for Donald Trump?
I don't know if Joe votes. But I think if RFK drops out, I think after what the COVID regime did to Joe, I think he would prefer. I can't speak for him.
Well, he did say twice he would vote for Trump over Biden.
Oh, that's the answer. Okay.
He then said recently that RFK Jr. makes the most sense.
Sure.
But it's not an endorsement.
Right.
If RFK tomorrow, as we expect him to, drops out and endorses Trump, I think just listening to what Joe talks about, he's a smart guy. He often
said explicitly. He said explicitly.
Right.
So there's your answer.
But that doesn't mean he's voting.
Correct.
He might just abstain.
Correct.
I think the reason he doesn't publicly state in his show that he's going to be voting for Trump is because he doesn't want to create the political tension for his.
I also doubt he votes. He does much more useful things toward moving the needle than.
I completely agree.
But still,
That's why I've been screaming about these Trump supporters who've attacked him as often.
You and I were on the same team with that. With Cat Turd, it's like, guys.
And Trump himself, he posted on Truth that he's gonna get booed the next time he goes to UFC. I'm like, dude, this guy is pushing voters.
But what's even funnier is like Monday, Joe says, RFK makes a lot of sense. Tuesday, Trump's like, "F you, Joe. They're going to boo you at the UFC." Friday, I'm going to have RFC run the CIA. He's going to say that tomorrow. It's just like ridiculous.
You think it's CIA for sure?
Well, Junior put it out there. I think that's what RFK would want.
Yeah.
And I can't think of anyone better.
I think he should be
poetic
Health and Human
justice.
Services.
What's that?
I think RFK should run Health and Human Services.
Okay, I think you're thinking too short term, because yes, he'd be better in that maybe in terms of helping people, but in terms of deconstructing the nightmare, you want him to open all the file cabinets.
I agree with Hannah Claire because that's the sort of the 1 + 1 = 2. Like, here's his passions, here's what he does.
That's not always true. Did you watch Rogan?
For what? No.
What was that guy?
Oh, what I'm saying is. RFK Jr.
Terrence Howard.
Let's
talk about it.
RFK Jr. is a very clearly passionate about environmental toxins and chronic illnesses, and so his passions fit here. However, the poetic justice is head of the CIA.
Yes.
I think there are a lot of people who would want to go through the filing cabinet, so hopefully there's a good bench of selections there.
I really, really hope, even though I can't even talk about this. Never mind. I'm going to abort this right now. We'll talk about the after show.
I honestly, we have to make a choice on the after show or watching Kamala speak. Or I got a better idea. I figured it out. We're going to watch Kamala speak on the after show so we can say naughty things.
Yes.
Oh, that's a great
idea. Can you fast forward to when he kicks Pac-Man off? It's really a good moment.
All right. So, so we have this clip of Jesse Lee Peterson and David Pac-Man. Is it here?
You'll be able
Gotta
to
be
see
the big one.
You can see very clearly where the you just fast forward it. You could skim it.
I love these guys. Only worth is for a vote.
But I want to give it a little bit of context.
I want to go on Jesse's show.
All right, come on, let's listen. Here we go.
You are a progressive. What does it mean to be a progressive? What is that?
It's for progress and against stagnation and a return to values that are outdated and irrelevant in modern society.
And what type of progress? Give me an example of progress.
The reduction in incredibly damaging economic inequality, the push for a basic level of health care for everybody, regardless of ability to pay, a push for an economy that is not going to allow the richest to become endlessly richer while the poor continue to be poor. I mean, there's a long list. I mean, I think, the problem is that there's a lot. I'm not a Democrat, by the way. I've never been a Democrat. So if the idea is to get me to.
No, you are a progressive. So I'm asking about that. So let me ask.
Well, I didn't even finish answering the question. How long do we have? Because this is a very weird interview. We didn't even. I was trying to get you to tell me exactly what Trump had done to achieve those so-called achievements, and you moved on to the Democratic Party. It's a very strange interview. I've never experienced anything like it.
Well, that's the first time in life for everything.
No change in affect.
So-called sex reassignment surgery. And our tax dollars are paying for it, even though we don't agree with that at all. Is
we
that,
being who?
The conservative Christian people of this country.
Well, that's just a fraction of the population, right?
Is that progress? When men are confused about their gender and women are confused about theirs, and now we're paying for it, is that progress?
Are you a fiscal conservative, Jesse?
Answer that question, David. Is that progress?
Well, are you a fiscal conservative?
David, answer that question. Is that progress?
It's not an example of something that is or isn't progress. But the reason I'm asking whether you're a fiscal conservative
what would you call that, David?
It's cheaper
David,
to pay for those procedures than to to find and discharge every transgender member of the military. So if you're a fiscal conservative,
David,
and I've heard you say that you are, you should favor the cheaper option,
do we have
which
this
is
guy
paying
back
for
on the
those
show?
procedures and not paying for what it would cost to find and discharge all those transgender military members.
David, you're not here to communicate. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm going to let you go. It's a waste of time to talk to you. You're not communicating. You're acting like an idiot.
No, because you're asking bizarre questions
you're
and not
acting
answering
like an idiot, and you're wasting my time. I appreciate you coming. All right, thank you for coming. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Hold on, leave it on.
Let him go. That's a progressive vote. All men who are progressive, or males who are progressive, are weak people.
Nice.
They are weak people. And why have these people on? It doesn't even make sense. They don't come to communicate because they're too insecure. And David Pakman is a very insecure progressive. Real men are not progressive. Progressives, whatever they are.
Yeah, so
I love Jesse. You haven't had him on, have you?
Oh, he'd be so good. He's so funny.
God.
I see the thing about progress.
I think he's asked me to go on his show, but I rarely go on anyone else.
Right, but why wouldn't you want him on your show?
I didn't say that. I didn't say I wouldn't want him on my show.
Okay.
Oh, Michael.
A culture war is probably a better fit.
He's
for a longer-form
unpredictable.
conversation.
That's one of the things for a late night stick by. But he's on YouTube, so he obviously knows the rules of the game.
No, he's very predictable. You never see him break.
So what David Pakman did there is sophistry. It's plain and simple.
Yes.
Ask a question about, is this progress? And then he deflects to fiscal conservatives should support this because it saves money. That's what? Okay, so like
argument.
throwing a body into the ocean saves money on funeral costs. We're not for that. Like we want proper waste disposal. What are you talking about?
Progress is you can move. That means move forward. You can progress off the edge of a cliff.
Right.
You can progress into a fire and burn to death. You don't always want to move forward for the sake of moving. Sometimes you want to regress and go backwards because backwards is where it's safer. So, or turn around and progress in a different direction. So that's the whole thing with progression for the sake of it.
What does it mean to turn? Is it transgress?
Yeah, I guess, right?
Yeah, to move sideways. Yeah, that's just a transgress.
Sometimes we want to sidestep whatever's in front of us because it might be like either maybe it's a pit trip and you're going to walk into it.
You don't want to progress into a trap.
Yeah.
So that's the problem with people that claim I am a progressive and I will always move us forward. If you're moving forward into the wrong thing, you're doing the wrong thing. Get out of that mindset.
So this is the main issue for us, especially is there's a small handful of people that are willing to come on the show, and they're all the grifters. So when I'm not talking about you, the people.
Well, then why did you look in my direction?
I'm talking to you.
You're the guest.
You've got a mullet, man, and it looks gorgeous. For
Anarchists, libertarians, and conservatives, easy to book. They will come on and they will say yes, no, maybe, I don't know, let's argue. Liberals are like, if I actually come on and they pull up sources, I'm screwed. the best example, and I will always give him the credit, shout out to Hunter Avallone, who came on this show, and we were talking, and I said, Joe Biden said, if you don't fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. And he smugly goes, that never happened. And I said, yes, it did. Here's the video. And I played it, and he was just like, oh, like he had no idea.
Sure.
Most of these people, like Pac-Man, and even probably now Kalinske, who's like taking a turn. I don't know what his deal is. These liberal guys are just like, if I go on the show, I know what happens. They're going to pull up the sources, and then what do I say?
I don't think that's it at all, Tim. I don't think they think, some of them, but I think for some of them, it's also like, it's like for me going to a mosque. It's like, this isn't my house. Like, I don't belong there. And I think, you remember how during 2020, when Marion Williamson was supposed to go on Rubin Report, and he's hardly a hardball. He's not, he's does softball. That's his thing. I do that same thing. Yeah. I want my guests to feel comfortable.
She bowed out.
And she bowed out.
You see what happened when she came on this show?
What? Was there more drama?
She nearly cried when we showed her the whiteness contract from that children's book. And I got her to inadvertently argue that Derek Chauvin should have never been convicted and should be released from prison.
Oh, wow.
And then she immediately backtracked and said, no, this is why they don't come on the show. Marion Williamson comes on and she says Republicans want to ban books. And I go, what, this one? And it's the white-handed devil saying the whiteness contract will kill your friends. And she was welling up in tears, covering her face, shocked, saying, what is this? She had no idea. Then I showed her the graphic book. Oh, she doesn't want to look at it. She can't look at the books they're giving kids because they're shocking and offensive. And then I asked her, if a person couldn't get a fair trial, should they go to prison? She says, no, of course not. So I said, if there was a person who was accused of murder and he's in a state, but the judge said there is no way you'll receive a trial in this state without someone knowing and being biased, should this person be put in trial? And she goes, no, of course not. And I went, like Derek Chauvin. And she went, oh my God. And then after the show was over, she was like, this is why I can't come on shows like this. Something that said that effect. She goes, because you ask these questions and the TVs don't do this.
But the thing is, those aren't even gotcha questions.
No, it's real conversation. That's
right. Like, think with those books, like that to me is the most egregious evil gaslighting. Because we went back 5 years ago, and I'm like, I know you kind of are conservative in your morals, but 5 years from now, they're going to be showing like pornography to kids and then telling you it's not happening. It's like, why would they do that? So disprovable. And here we are.
They said this. In 2000,
and the gaslighting is incessant.
In 2008, the argument against gay marriage was, I think it was 2008 when they were doing, was it Proposition 8 or whatever in California? The argument was it will lead to schools teaching children about gay sex. And the left was like, oh, shut up. And I remember all my friends being like, dude, we're talking about two people just having a private life. They're not going to be in your schools. But the conservatives were correct. They weren't arguing that arbitrarily they just start saying we're going to bring, gay sex into schools. They were saying if you have two adult men who are married and he's a teacher, the children are going to be exposed to this, and they're going to have questions about why his husband is showing up, and who is that? Because teachers' spouses may show up and pick them up for a ride or something. And it will result in the school making the argument. Literally where we are now is that Democrats are making the argument that they have to teach children about gay sex. And I'm not even talking about, like, love. I'm literally these books. One of the books, it's called, what's the, we don't have them in here because we moved studios. The one that explains scat to children.
There's a scat. Oh.
Yes, it explains it to children. And
can I say one sentence?
It's in the school libraries in the curriculum.
Can I say one sentence? Because I know there's one where they were talking about oral. There was the one clip, I bring this up all the time, when there's a Canadian reporter and he went back to North Korea. And North Korea, when you talk to the guides, there's always two because they watch each other. And they're at the Ostertranch. There's an Ostertranch outside Pyongyang. And the reporter goes to his guide is like an older man, his 50s, I'd say roughly. And he goes, last time I was here, I asked you about gays and lesbians. And he goes, yeah. And you guys said, we don't have that here. And he goes, well, what about bisexuals? And this old North Korean just goes, what? So I was already at the point where like, okay, they're just showing like oral. And now you're like, I thought I caught up.
So
my God.
The argument is children need to learn about this because the teachers are gay. And so they're a part of society and kids are going to see it. So now, and the conservatives were completely correct about what this was going to lead to.
Scat.
And it
in the book, it's got a glossary of terms, and one of them explains that some people, for gratification, will eat human waste. And it doesn't say don't do this. It doesn't say this is dangerous. It doesn't say there's no reason a child should be learning these things. But this book is what was the name of that book?
Trying to look it up.
Is that the one about the girl who?
No. That one's about the genderqueer book.
Genderqueer.
That's the one where she talks about how she was severely abused by her parents and made to defecate outside, and then they made her wear a used pad over and over again, and she smelled so bad that the counselors brought her in and scolded her for not taking care of her hygiene. And this is clearly not in the book, but anybody who reads it, who has any kind of logic, understands this poor young woman in this book, Genderqueer, was made to do her business outside by her parents. When she went to school and was going through puberty, they gave her used, dirty old pads. She draws pictures of them. She complained. She writes in the book how she smelled so bad. The counselor brought her in and scolded her and said, "You need to do something about this." And she was embarrassed. Clearly, what happens then is when she's hairy, she's unshaven, and the other girls are like, "You're gross and you smell bad," she says, "I wish I could be a boy," because the boys don't get insulted by the other girls for being stinky and hairy. So she internalizes this abuse from her parents that didn't properly teach her how to function in society, and then says, "If only I was a boy, then I could escape from this." And then she seeks out to get a sex change. And this is what they're giving to kids to explain why these people believe these things and feel this way, without actually telling the children, if your parents are making you wear 3-day-old crusted pads and you smell bad, you are being abused and you need help. But that's the book they're giving to kids.
Ian, how are you going to sit down and give these people the benefit of the doubt?
I'll tell you exactly. This is what I'm thinking about, because I think when people self-identify, when they put themselves in a mental cage by saying, "I am a progressive, I am an anarchist, I am a Democrat, I am a Republican," that they're living in a sort of mental fear where they're like protecting themselves with this idea of what they think they are. And so these people are vulnerable because that's why they're identifying themselves as a protective field. So if they feel like you're not on their side, they're going to have a fear of you. But
you think Michael is claiming to be an anarchist because he's afraid?
I think it protects him from having to explain why he's not voting. So, for instance, exactly. It's a thing. Like, if you're truly an anarchist, you wouldn't label yourself at all. There would be no rules.
That's not what anarchism means. Private rules. It doesn't mean chaos.
But literally means without authority.
Yes.
Yeah, you wouldn't need to label yourself.
Anarchists play Monopoly, and you get the same amount of money at the beginning, and so on and so forth. I play chess.
I identify with that. I identify with your way of thinking quite a bit. But I think that labeling yourself.
I don't know what you think my way of thinking is, though.
That authorities can become very dangerous very quickly.
Authority
so be very
is illegitimate.
Well, I mean, Tim's the authority in this room, and because of it, we have.
I can leave this room whenever I want.
Yeah, but we have a cool show going on because we have
not illegitimate. This is so. I had this conversation with the Occupy people over and over again because they made the same argument. We're anarchists. Authority is illegitimate. And I say no. A cop telling you that's a frozen zone is illegitimate because that's what they were doing in New York.
What do you mean by frozen zone?
The police made this term up where they said we have frozen this street.
Okay,
that means you can't walk there anymore.
Okay,
and we're like, shut up.
Right,
it's nothing.
I've never even heard that.
However, let me ask you this. If you were standing on the sidewalk by yourself and an old man walked by and then grasped his chest and fell down and a doctor ran up and said, "This man's going to die. You, sir, come over here and start doing compressions," would you say no?
I would do it.
You would do it because it's real authority. It's not
authority in the sense that if I don't do it, I'm not going to have consequences legally.
That's not what authority is.
That is what authority. Okay, listen. Let me. Okay, we're going to be talking past each other. I'm going to save us a lot of time. I do what my doctor tells me. I do what my lawyer tells me. I do what my accountant tells me. Those are instances where I defer to others' authorities. What I'm saying is authority that's not chosen, that's imposed, whether by fiat, democratic vote, or aristocracy is not legitimate.
And this is the point I'm making. So when you say authority is illegitimate, we need to clarify and let people understand.
Sure.
We, every day in our lives, recognize the true authority. A person that we reasonably believe to be a doctor, and we make a guess in this. A guy's wearing a lab coat with a stethoscope and he's in scrubs. He might not be. He could be a burglar or a robber trying to steal the guy's wallet for all we know. But no, he's probably a doctor. And when he says, "This man's going to die unless you do this now," we say, "Yes, sir."
Because we want to do on a stethoscope. If I will. Right.
Yeah, like a friend. Sometimes a friend can be your author. They can just give you some advice, and you're like, "Thank you," and thank you for helping me author my reality.
In all these situations, anyway, there's the freedom.
That's not authority. Is do you follow orders? Does this person have
some authorship in my perception of reality? Yeah, are they helping me write my reality?
No, it's do you follow their lead?
So exactly. So let me finish your question. The people that are in this realm of self-identifying as "I am a this," which a lot of these people in our work are because of the politics. They have a sort of reticence to engage. They're afraid of identifying with the other. So I feel like if you don't identify, it's much easier to get along with people like that. Also, if like the reason why people that would consider themselves conservatives are more willing to identify with other people that consider themselves conservatives is because they're not afraid. They're less afraid of what they're familiar with. So I try and dispense with self-identification and cults and groups. I never liked being in the in-group. I always wanted to.
Don't worry about that, Ian. That's not a concern.
It's with YouTube videos. It's very easy to become a cult leader. So I just
look. Ian doesn't like labels. You can't make him label himself. He's not going to commit to anything.
I don't know. He likes Moonlord.
Words are labels. We're using labels right now to communicate with the English language. I understand the value of labels and that you need them sometimes. But when it's coming to like the survival of our species, I feel like sometimes you got to step back from that stuff. And like hitting Pac-Man on being progressive, like that's going to push him away.
Good.
What?
If you just be like, well, you're a progressive,
and he's progressive.
Yeah. If you were to go at someone because of their identification, it'll push them away.
But if you wanted to learn what progressive things, wouldn't you want someone who identifies as progressive to explain it to you?
And all Jesse did was say, you're a progressive, and so David says, I'm a progressive. And he goes, okay, so you're a progressive. What does that mean? And then David
said, I'm not a Democrat, Jesse. I'm a progressive. He volunteered it.
And then he said, what does that mean? What does it mean? What does it mean to be a progressive? And then David gave him an answer.
Well, and then he kind of baffled. He was like,
sure.
Aren't you a fiscal conservative? And
where David refused to answer a very simple question because
he was like on edge.
And so this is an important point in the culture war and the political war. Conservatives and many libertarians make the mistake of thinking life is principles, that their worldview is principles, that law is principles. They're completely wrong. It's morals built upon their worldview. And principles are not material for the most part to these people, to anybody. And so what happens is the people on the right say, I'm for free speech. And then the left says, oh, yeah, then let me show this book to children that has these images in it. The right then says, that's not what we're talking about. Well, hold on. You're setting a moral limit on where you think some things should not be or shouldn't be shared. So there's free speech absolutism. And then there's, no. What I mean by free speech is expressing your political opinion safely without fear of consequence, not showing children graphic content. The left exploits the concept of principles because a lot of conservatives don't understand the point of moral lines. So the example that I always use is my body, my choice. The left says, my body, my choice. You can't force me to do this unless it's vaccines. Yeah. The argument is, should government intervene in medical care has different moral lines. You can argue that I am of the belief, my principles are people make their choices over their own medical care and the government shouldn't intervene. Okay, so if a doctor then prescribes to a parent that their child get a sex change, the government shouldn't intervene. Whoa, no. Conservatives then say, absolutely, the government should stop that. Liberals have the inverse worldview. If a child is transgender and the doctor is refusing, should the government intervene or the parents are refusing the doctor's orders, should the government intervene to give the child the sex change? Liberals say yes. There's no principle that fits this. It's not just the simple logic of 1 + 1 = 2. It's what is your moral worldview and what do you accept or not accept?
Yeah, and I want to blend these people's worldviews, people that you disagree with. That's where I'm at with like turning someone from the dark to the light, is rather than self-identify as the other from them, I want to kind of become one with their consciousness and then take them with me on a ride of belief, like change their understanding. Because I do think I have good morals.
Okay, there's only one way to actually change people, and it's not sitting down having a conversation and thinking you're being nice to them.
It's what Mao said.
Oh, I don't care about being nice.
You have like 15 years to do it.
It's not even that. You the means by which people's worldviews change is through isolating them and surrounding them by people of a particular worldview.
Or traumatic incident.
Traumatic incidents. Oh. If you want to make someone pro 2A, when they find themselves in the middle of the woods being attacked by bears, they might all of a sudden wish they had a gun on them, and then they're like, "But guns are banned in this state."
That line about a conservative is a liberal who's been mugged, and a liberal is a conservative who's been arrested.
Chloe Cole just interviewed this detransitioner who said she was in Israel during the attacks, and it was in that moment of the bombings that she realized, if I'd gotten the surgery, I wouldn't be able to get up and run to safety right now. What am I doing with my life? And detransitioned after that.
Well, so anyway, if you want to change someone's mind, meeting them and entertaining their fallacies is them attempting to change your mind. Two people meeting, you're not going to change their worldview. There's a reason why they won't come on the show. Conservatives have no problem because they are firm in their worldviews.
There's another thing, though. Conservatives have to be aware of liberal arguments because the corporate press is so overwhelmingly left, whereas you can very easily live in a world where you're never hearing right of center arguments.
Yes. Conservatives
That's a really
this is the
point.
tendency.
It's kind of like a shock of cold water to a lot of people to hear the truth, to hear like the
and there's so
information.
much stigma about right of center views that it's right. As soon as you say this, oh, you're a Nazi, and like I don't want to hear anything. You're a Nazi, fine. That's
You get written
nice.
off
Go be a Nazi
entirely,
over
yeah.
there.
Michael, did you see the tweet from, I think it's Catherine Brodsky, where she says, she posted Elon saying, Twitter needs to be neutral. And she says, I had a dream that we'd have this utopia, but I was wrong. Like, I wished this is what Twitter was going to be. The issue is, for a lot of these liberals, they assumed that this country is balanced between left and right. And that if you remove the censorship on X, you would have the left and the right equally arguing. What did we discover? The left and right is completely imbalanced. This country is conservative. It's right-leaning in various ways. It's libertarian to conservative with very little liberal. When liberals are exposed to the truth, they go, oh, okay. And well, that's it. So why am I voting for Donald Trump? It's not because I'm a conservative. I'm certainly not. I hold traditionally liberal American Democrat views from the 90s and 2000s, and the Democratic Party's gone completely psychotic. So I'm now either post-liberal, disaffected liberal, but I'm certainly not a conservative, and conservatives can identify that. But when I read the news and I know what's true, I can say, yeah, Joe Biden offered a quid pro quo. Fire the prosecutor, you're not getting $1 billion. He had no authority to do it. His son was on the board of this company. The prosecutor was investigating that company. It was putting his son at risk, and his son asked the State Department for help. That's true. But if you go to the average member, if you go to the DNC right now and ask, they're going to say you're lying. That's not true.
Okay.
They have to be kept away from the truth to maintain that voting pattern.
And we also agree that all of us would much, I know like people don't like having two negative choices. Why don't you give me a good third choice? Okay, two negative choices. Wouldn't you rather have someone who's just a crook that you disagree with, like Joe Biden, than someone who's an ideologue like Tim Walz?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yes, 100%.
Well, we do got to go to Super Chats, though. So smash the like button, subscribe to this channel.
940.
Share the show with all your friends if you do like it. The first Super Chat I'm going to read is actually really simple. Dahuan Moten says, how do I access the membership show? Go to timcast.com right now. Click join us, sign up, become a member, $10 a month. And then at 10 o'clock, we're going to have the members only show on the front page of the site. It'll say member call in. It'll have my face and Michael Malice's pig nose face up there. And that's how you'll find it. But that's in 20 minutes. In the meantime, we'll read your super chats. But that's how you can find it. And let's go. Harry Lawrence says first, congratulations.
Harry.
Hi, Larry.
Token Black Guy says, howdy, people. I want to show some love to my boy Raymond G. His ex-posts keep me entertained at work. Holla at your boy Ray Ray.
Thank you, Token Black Guy. Rock and roll.
He makes the best clips.
Go America. Oh yeah,
Right on.
I clip this show a lot.
Maybe hyperbole.
Yeah.
But he makes really, really great clips.
They work.
All right. Just Because I'm Free says, so now it's known the Democrats are using lawfare, infiltration, and sabotage against RFK Jr., Jill Stein, and Trump. Just wondering what are the consequences of all of this? Also, Malice for press secretary.
I mean,
amen.
Why wouldn't they do it if there's no consequences?
I was going to say, there are no consequences for
Why
that.
shouldn't they do it?
Other than, I mean, Nicole Shanahan coming out and saying, like, this is something that's happening may make some people more aware of it, which may decrease trust slightly. But long term, there are no consequences.
Right.
Remember when, was it Donna Brazile was caught emailing Hillary Clinton the questions that they're going to have in the debate?
It wasn't debate, it was a town hall.
In the town hall,
Yes,
thank
that's
you.
a very big difference. But yes, but still, yeah.
But still, like,
no consequences.
the prearranged media thing where we're supposed to have this face-off.
No, the worst example, I'm sorry to cut you off. The worst example of this was when Hillary was running for Senate in 2000 in New York State, and she went on Letterman. And the big issue is, like, lady, you have nothing to do with New York. Like, how are you running for the New York Senate? And he asked her, what's the state bird? What's the national, what's the state slogan? And she's like, oh, I think it's this. It was all scripted. They admit it later. She knew all those questions were coming. It was completely staged.
And she
that is
intentionally
much
got 'em
worse
wrong?
than the Donna Brazile thing. What?
You intentionally got him wrong?
She got them all right.
Because she was prepared, because she had to argue that she was actually had any kind of tie to the state. I think this is one of the issues for the DNC, though. Like, Donna Brazile's out now. She still, shows up occasionally as a media pundit for the Democratic arm of American politics, and that's kind of it. There's not long-term consequences.
What about the 51 intelligence agents
What's that?
with the Hunter
Former
Biden laptop?
intelligence agents.
Yeah. None of them had any consequences. They're still hired and people pick their brains. These reporters aren't like, oh, you made me look so bad. How dare you? They don't care.
Well, they get away with anything they want to do.
Alihad says, can't wait to find out HCB flipped and is now supporting Kamala because Taylor Swift was at the DNC. Is that true?
Taylor Swift is not at the DNC. Pink
Are you a
is performing
Swiftie?
right now.
It's
Yeah, I
Pink?
dabble. Look at me.
Even Phil is,
Michael,
bro.
Look
Phil's
at me.
huge.
Of course
not
I've
performing
listened
right
to
now.
Taylor Swift.
Yeah.
Pink's not performing right now.
She was a second ago.
Was she really?
Yeah.
Because for a second I was like, man, Pink has sure let herself go.
Yeah.
Yikes.
She was a
He's
second
not on
ago.
keto.
That's Mark Kelly, right? No.
Oh, that's Pink
I have to dabble.
right there.
She's like the pop star of my growing
Okay,
up.
you want to be basic, be basic.
I can't help it. It's just the way I'm genetically
You
coded.
can't help who you
All right, Chris Washburn says, y'all are crazy. The mint chocolate is straight fire. So we have these sports drinks. They're called Numa.
You want
I
one?
hate mint chocolate.
I hate mint chocolate
Hate
as
it.
well.
Really?
Absolutely.
Yes, they're not friends. Everyone says that is a psychopath.
They don't really go that good
It's a
together.
vegetable
not.
oil. What are you doing? You
What if it's like actual cacao and mint leaf?
No, get out of here.
Like, is that
Get out-
good?
Get out of here.
He's
Ian.
not.
You're
He's
putting
not
mint-
joking. Get the.
Maybe that's
I'll break this bottle of. I'll give you
What are
an
you
Irish
drinking
goodbye.
Dr. Pepper
plastic
Zero
Dr.
for anyway?
This is my main method of hydration. I'll make it work. I'm an anarchist.
So anyway, they've got mango. It's delicious. Lemonade. They got watermelon lime. They got peach blueberry. They're all so delicious. And then they have chocolate mint. And Raymond says everybody hates it.
Yeah, it's the only one left in the refrigerator. When
But the people who like it really like it.
sure, like two people, maybe one.
Mint chocolate
Brain
chip
damage.
ice cream, you can admit.
It's disgusting.
I like the ice cream. I could dig the ice cream. And you know, if I'm being honest, what I tried one of these not too long ago, and it wasn't terrible.
You're terrible.
All right, let's grab some
Thank
more.
you, Michael Malice.
You're welcome.
We got MTW says Brian Krasenstein is definitely well off. Dude lives in a multi-million-dollar house on the water in Florida. He preys on low information people of the DNC cult for wealth and fame.
Well, they have multiple businesses too.
Look, I respect their hustle. I don't think they're trying to pretend. They're not pretending to be anything other than not. Same that Harry Stisson kid. Like he's a propagandist. Let him do. He's fine. There's no pretense to the contrary.
Not
And my
hiding it.
point is just they're intentionally lying to people.
Sure, absolutely, yes.
Just as long as everyone knows that they're propagandists, we're fine.
I love you, Brian.
There's plenty of Republicans, people like that as well.
Oh, I'll forget about it. I can never mind.
Of course, come on.
Let's grab Dylan Binkley says Montana is going to flip blue as a Montanan.
That's
Okay,
crazy.
cool story, bro.
Maybe Bozeman.
There is a lot of blue movement, I think, especially during COVID. Like on the East Coast, we saw a lot of migration to Florida and other places. And there are, some of them were conservatives who were leaving the state, but there were, Democrats or likely Democrats who moved too. And I think you did see that from the West Coast, especially people leaving California. But generally, I think Montana will stay pretty red.
He's up by 20 or something. Trump in the latest polls.
Mm-hmm.
Matt Burkhart says 269 ties, Trump winning all swing states, but Dems winning all of Texas, all of Maine, and the 3 independent districts of Nebraska.
Okay. I think there's several ways to get us there.
There is. There's a swing state path as well, but I think all of them involve Maine or Nebraska having one of those independent districts flip. And then it's going to be the Trump-Harris administration.
That's what we all need.
Oh, because the Senate, House is going to vote one way, Senate the other.
The House votes for the president, the Senate votes for the vice president.
Right.
That'd be insane.
Wow.
But then again, isn't the Senate down now because of Menendez? Or who is he out?
He
got charged, so is he
he's
still gone?
resigned, right?
Okay.
Has
He resigned, but he hasn't left office yet. He was resigning in it was bizarre. Oh, look.
He'll do it in 2040.
I mean, because then it'll
Resigning
be
in slow
49-50.
Yeah.
And then it's going to be Trump-Vance. The Republicans will vote for Vance.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, we'll see. Let's grab some more. Let's see what we got here. Also, I'll just add this. I don't know if Kamala's going to be speaking by 10 because they still got Gretchen Whitmer and Adam Kinzinger.
Two horrible people.
Oh, they still haven't gone?
It says speaking tonight, Gretchen Whitmer, Adam Kinzinger, Kamala Harris.
Is this live, though? Maybe you were watching an old...
No,
This is 846.
Yeah, it's right there.
846.
940. Yeah,
Oh, okay,
Central
you
Time.
weren't kidding.
Yeah, same thing.
I'm sorry, but this is what we're talking about, getting a campaign together in 70 days.
Yeah.
It's you want her... I don't think this is on purpose, they're keeping her at a prime time. I think this is they're screwing up.
Menendez officially, his resignation became official yesterday.
Oh, wow, okay.
Wow. So he's out.
Yeah, he's out, and I'm trying to see what happens to his seat.
All right. Blackout says, am I racist is just one big psyop to prove Clark Kent's disguise was reasonable.
Yeah.
You remember that meme about the picture of Christopher Reeve as Clark Kent? And he goes, I want a disguise that no one could confuse with the hero who never lies.
Oh, yeah. Well, the thing about Clark Kent people don't realize is, clearly because they're not fans of DC, Superman's disguise was never just putting on glasses. In the movies, they actually do a good job of helping to explain this. And actually, in I can't remember, it might have been the Justice League cartoons. Clark Kent is low T.
Yes.
So he's nervous and shaky, and he gets pushed around all the time.
He's a liberal, and
it's also not at all clear in the comics that to the masses that Superman has a secret identity.
Right. So there's one. I was actually watching Justice League a little while ago, and it's Clark Kent is getting beat up by like Luther's guys or something, and he's begging for, please leave me alone, and he's all messed up and he's shaking. And then as soon as they leave, he rips his clothes off, and then he's Superman. And in the movies, I think what they did was he's hunched over, and he's like, well, you know. And then there's a scene where he takes his glasses off, and then he rises upright, and then it's a completely different person. But I mean, people.
Listen, if you saw a guy in a wheelchair who can only move his head, you wouldn't think he's Superman either.
Look, if you know what I hear all the time,
take off that beanie.
Did anyone ever tell you look like Tim Pool? This is what people, most of the time, people aren't coming up to me and going like, yo, Tim Pool, big fan. Does happen. Usually they'll go, did anyone ever tell you look like Tim Pool?
Tim, that's my line. When I meet celebrities, or I used to, I did this to Molly Shannon. I saw her at a party. I didn't know how to be. Oh my God. I go, hey, you look like Molly Shannon. She goes, it's me. She was very nice. She was very nice. Me. So that's a great line for people to use.
Nice. But
and by the way, if people come up to me, and this happened to me recently. I was at the airport, and I was at the part where you have your ID and the boarding pass, and there's like 3 of them huddled. And the guy goes, oh, hey, you know, I love you. I love your work. And the lady turns to her coworker. She goes, who is he? I go, oh, I'm the guy who shot up Pulse. And the guy laughs, and they let me through. I always say that. I'm the guy who shot. Like, I recognize you. Yeah, I'm the guy who shot up Pulse.
What the point I'm trying to make is,
I'll do it again.
I was sitting at a Subway, and there was it was Glenn Howerton and Caitlin. What's her name?
Jenner?
No. What? Glenn Howerton is from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. And Caitlin.
She plays the girl.
Right. Is her name Caitlin?
It is Caitlin Olsen.
Is it Olsen?
Yeah, it is.
Caitlin Olsen. Yes, I'm positive.
I saw them walking past me in Chicago, and I was like, "There's no way that was them." Looks kind of like them though. And then my friend was like, "Oh yeah, that was them." And I was like, "Damn, I wasn't sure."
Yeah.
I also saw Ben Gibbard from Death Cab This is crazy. I was in Chicago. I was on Clark Street, and I lived there. And I was playing with my friend. We were playing music, and we were playing Death Cab for Cutie covers. And then I was like, "Well," we played a song, and then we make good money. Everyone's drunk, and they're partying, and the baseball game's happening. And then I was like, "I don't know. What do you want to play now?" And she's like, "I don't know. Let's play one of your originals." I start playing. Ben Gibbard walks past me right before I was literally playing one of his songs, and I was like, I'm playing as I'm looking him walk by. He walks down the street, and then I look over to my friend, and then we're done. I'm like, that guy looked just like Ben Gibbard, and she's like, isn't he playing at the Metro? And I was like, holy, that was, oh my, there's been a bunch of times in my life where I was like, I can't tell if that's him or not.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially with celebrities in movies, because they do specific angles on faces, my good side, my bad side. You'll see someone and you're not quite sure if it's them.
What about the fact that Roseanne's 5'3"?
Wait, is she? She's like my mom.
When you think of Roseanne Barr, I'm like, oh my, this like Godzilla figure, and it's like, oh, you're a cute little old lady. It's adorable.
I'll get that. You look like that guy.
This is the other thing too. Camera angles for TV shows, they hold the cameras at their chest height. So one thing people like to say is, here's another thing that I get a lot. Wow, you're a lot bigger than I thought.
Yeah.
I get that all the time too.
So there's a video of me skating, and then the comments were like, Tim is taller than everyone in this video. What? I thought he was short, because our cameras are set at a higher angle to go over the heads. So what people don't understand is, from their perspective, walking around the streets, if you're 6 feet tall, you're looking down. So if you're 5'10" or whatever, and you meet someone who's 5'7", you're looking down at him from this angle, and your brain says short. If you're watching a TV show with downward angles, your assumption is these are short people. When they film TV shows and movies, they have these women who are 5'3", but the cameras are all shot at chest height. So it's eye level or lower than the actor, and they assume that people are a lot taller than they are, and then they find out most of the actors are actually a lot shorter than they are.
People don't know Tim is 6'7", by the way.
6'7". I do like to, when watching movies, look at doors when the actor or actress is walking by the door, and then you're like, man, Tom Cruise, he's a short guy. You can see the doorknob. He's like,
that's a good.
When he walks over and he reaches up for the doorknob.
I'll get the people come up to me and be like, you look like that guy from Timcast, Adam Krigler. I'll be like, yeah, shout out to Adam Krigler in our upcoming song, The Forge. Get ready for it. It's hot.
Oh, The Forge is coming out?
Forge
I love that
out,
song. That's a good song.
Let's grab this one.
Song. Shout out Adam.
Yeah. Let's grab this one. We got Omega Rosetsu says, for Malice, I say to Jehovah's Witnesses as well, if you do not participate, your opinion is void and probably shouldn't have a political opinion.
That's nice. What are you going to do about it? like people tell me this, like, if you don't vote, you don't have a right to talk. Okay.
But you do.
Literally, what am I
They have the right to talk. They don't have to listen to you. That's their choice.
It's the correct answer. And this is the point I was making about conservatives arguing with liberals, and the conservatives and liberals are willing to debate, is because many of the conservatives would say, well, I think, what I think is this, instead of going, okay.
Right.
Like, and your point is, like, what are you going to do about it?
It's just bizarre. It's like you don't have a right. Like if you're not voting, you don't have a voice. It's like there's a microphone here. You hear me?
You're not supposed to vote.
Here's another one.
You can vote.
Here's another one for you. We got David Chorpening to Michael. Does Lysander Spooner's argument that anarchists should still vote to avoid a worse master carry any weight for you?
No.
Okay. Next question.
Good answer.
You just find like economic solutions are better?
I don't regard it as legitimate that I'm going to choose which master I have. I mean, that's crazy to me. And I'd much rather take the time to work on destroying masterhood.
Oh, I like that.
So are you one of those guys who thinks that they should change the coding language where they got rid of the word master and slave?
Oh, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Did you hear that, though?
Yes, of course. And what a master bedroom. You can't
Yeah, I
say
was
that
going to say,
either.
you're against that too,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
What do they call the master bedroom now?
Primary bedroom.
What?
Wow.
But you'll be against primary eventually.
This is so dumb. So master and slave are coding terms, and they like had this thing where they're like, we're going to get rid of these words. And
do they still say male and female with the plugs?
Oh yeah, wasn't that?
No, I think that's still a thing.
Now it's receptive and
front hole. The fact that they're saying front hole, it's like
front hole.
So
genitals.
It used to
front
be
hole for like a lady.
Yes.
No, it's bonus hole now.
Well, yeah,
No,
that's the proper terminology is a bonus.
So wait, hold on. There is a coin game that you may have seen at malls and bars where you put the quarter in and the coin pusher pushes the quarter.
Yeah.
There's a specific version of it where there's a hole in the center.
Okay.
And when the quarters fall into it, they fill a bucket up. Once the bucket gets too heavy, it drops all the quarters down, and it's called bonus hole. It's always been called bonus hole. It's a very, very old game. They have one down the street here at a Mexican restaurant. So when the woke started referring to keep it family friendly, the colonic-lined crevice between a male's legs for pleasure, they referred those as bonus holes. It was just kind of strange.
Yeah, just kind of strange.
Anyway, let's read some more super chats.
Little.
All right. Let's see. Hold on. YouTube just did the stupid thing where the super chats jump.
Oh, these super chats.
Real quick, it's called this book is gay. If I may interrupt.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
This book
Yeah,
is
that was
gay.
the book.
Yeah.
It's got a glossary with things children should not be reading. And there was a teacher who was teaching it to like 10-year-olds, and they called the police on her.
Good.
In Chicago, right? And then they're like, they're trying to ban books. It's enticement of a minor. It's a crime. Anyway, Brian Lead says ranks can share pay grades. Like if it promotes automatically after a year, Waltz was a Master Sergeant E8, not First Sergeant E8. Not Sergeant Major E9, not Command Sergeant Major E9. Did he illegally claim 3 ranks higher?
Ooh.
I mean, Tim Waltz is a liar. We didn't get into that one story where his kid was crying for him and everyone got mad at Ann Coulter.
But his lying is the least of it. It's the stuff that he says honestly that I'm worried about. Do you know what I mean? Like,
That's a good point.
the
Yeah,
whole
because
thing.
he's
It's
super
bad.
terrible. Yeah, that's good.
I've kind of been in the look away phase. Maybe I should start watching more
and
of their stuff.
I would not trust my kids near his van.
I cared about the stolen valor,
You don't
but
want him to hang out with the coach?
There's something. I'm telling you, there's something very, very Jerry Sandusky about him.
jeez, I got to look into it more now.
All right, Dinus says, everyone should correct your status as an American state national, not to be confused with the oxymoron sovereign citizens. Look into the United States corporation under the 14th Amendment. Michael says no.
I didn't say no. I said, oh, God. I just watched a video about this yesterday.
Sovereign
Oh, yeah,
citizenry,
yeah.
where you're like, I'm not
driving, I'm traveling.
Yeah,
What?
I was birthed.
So they say that
Like on the
cops can't
ship?
stop you. You don't have to have a driver's license because I'm not legally driving. I'm traveling. And traveling doesn't fall under your jurisdiction.
Huh?
These are the people who,
I
like,
know.
you know how these boomers, they say it's a republic and a democracy?
Yeah.
As if when you say that to Nancy Pelosi, she'd be like, oh, crap, they figured it out. Like, clean out her desk and go home. Like, there's not this magic set of rules that people who are evil and interested in increasing power are all of a sudden going to submit and be like, you know what, you're right, I'm going to follow the Constitution. That's not a thing.
But I mean, you say these
they're,
boomers, but they're us. This is the IRL of our community. We say republic, not democracy.
And what is, who cares? Like,
I'm just saying.
Your opponents don't care.
Yeah.
Very true.
Is my point.
Right. And that's the frustration I have with a lot of people where we're at this point where, Ian thinking he's going to argue with Democrats who are sitting there. Ian, when you sit down with someone like the Krasensteins or Pac-Man and you're like, I really want to try and work this out and understand you, they're sitting there going like, this guy's so
Dude,
Stupid.
me and Ed and Brian get along great.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
Both follow
they're-
me on Twitter.
They're not thinking, what a good guy. They're thinking, this guy's dumb as a box of rocks.
No, they're like, let's stay in touch and do stuff together. That's what
Sure.
they said. That we're friends. Like, that's what I care about is that we get along because then we can change each other's minds.
So,
I have a very strong mind.
Ian, what's Evian spelled backwards?
Naive?
Huh. Did you know that Gold Bull's written on the ceiling, too?
I don't believe you, Tim.
It's right. See the tape?
I see you lying.
You see the tape up here?
Look at you pointing.
I'm looking.
You see the
I'm
tape
watching
right
you.
there?
I'm watching you make up stuff to try and prove some weird
Did I make
point.
that up? Michael sees the tape.
I see the tape.
And there is writing on it. Ian is refusing to look now. You see?
Is it a refusal? I don't know.
Oh God, he's got a razor. He's got a razor.
The Krasensteins and these liberals are sitting there being like, yeah, let's do stuff together. Let's do stuff together. And in their mind, they're thinking, this guy's an idiot.
I think you have a malicious view on things that doesn't need to be there, man.
A malicious view.
He means me. He's he's subtweeting
Not
me.
everything's about you, Mike.
Well, he said malicious.
But I think you misspoke. I think what you mean to say is I perceive malice.
Where there is none. Sometimes.
He's sitting right in front of me, so I can't not.
Maybe because of the way you were
Hi,
born. Like,
everybody.
you came from a hard background. I came from a really nice background, and I think we both have like bias because of that. And
well, everybody
that's
has
kinda why we're
has their bias in their worldview, but I think it has more to do with I worked in an industry, in the nonprofit sector, which was literally training liberal individuals and young people to go lie to people to get them to give you money and vote for people for things that are a detriment to themselves.
Yeah, I came from like helping people.
And right.
Going to the battered women's shelter and mowing the lawn for free or like for $15.
Right. And I worked for homeless shelters.
Yeah,
and then
we get the lawn.
And what you learn is some people are evil and some people are not. And so there are certain liberals that are not evil. They're just wrong. And you can have a decent conversation with them. You mentioned Jessica Tarlov.
She's great. Shout out to Jesse.
I enjoy watching her on Fox because she argues with Jesse and she's not stupid. She's actually making good points and I'm like, well, I disagree with her on that one, but she's not just saying random garbled nonsense.
She's coming from a place of truth.
She's what?
She's coming from a place of her truth.
Right, and the Krasinskis are not. And I know this for a fact because they omit context on purpose, and they even admit that they do this. There's a tweet thread from Brian where he explains he's going to push certain points he knows are out of context for the purpose of manipulating people. And then Ian's like, well, I don't know. I was like, whatever, dude. Anyway, it's 10.
You got the last word.
Well,
you got a good heart, Ian. You got a good heart.
You're gonna get you can speak in the members show. I don't know who's speaking. It's Whitmer. Whitmer speaking. Smash the like button. Subscribe to this channel. Share the show with your friends. Become a member. Go to timcast.com. Click join us. $10 a month. We're gonna go to the uncensored show. There's a bunch of jokes that I wanted to say, but we're keeping it family friendly. And I know that Michael is ready to burst from all of the jokes he wants to make that he can't. But on the members show, he's gonna he's gonna make you laugh. He's got a pig nose on, and it'll be fun. So go to timcast.com. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. You can follow the show at Timcast IRL. Michael, do you want to shout anything out?
Follow me on Twitter at Michael Malice. Please join my locals community, malice.locals.com. And I am dreading listening to this pig speech. I'm not kidding at all. You know why? Because we all know it's going to be completely. Here's the thing. I'll say my way, then Kamala Harris. I like doing the show. We have a good conversation. We don't always agree, but I think people enjoy watching it. But for her, it's like, I like doing this show. We have a good conversation. Sometimes people don't agree. It's like, my God.
All right. He's been saying it all night, I believe.
Raymond.
I'm Raymond G. Stanley Jr. I work facilities here, maintenance at Timcast. Timcast.
You sat me next to a janitor?
Yeah,
that's right.
100%.
I crossed an ocean for this.
Let's go. I look forward to. Thank you, Ian. You're up.
What's your ex?
Oh, my ex is Raymond G. Stanley at x.com.
Thanks, man.
Hoorah.
All right, guys, have a good evening. Like Superman and Batman, me and Tim are gonna figure out a way to lead the Justice League. Sometimes differing personalities got to work together, and so we do. I love you, brother. Bye, everyone.
I'm Hannah Claire Brimla. I'm a writer for scnr.com, Scanner News. Check out their work at Timcast News. There's a lot of clips from Alad. He's been on the ground at the DNC all week. You should definitely go see what he's been up to. If you want to follow me personally, I'm on Instagram, HannahClaire.b, and I'm on X, HannahClaireB. Thanks for everything you guys do. Have a good night.
We'll see you all over at timcast.com in about a minute. Thanks for hanging out.